better not have no plans tonight.
Movie time and it's feeling right.
You're looking for a love that lasts. You'll find it at Romance in the Podcast. Ooh, ooh, baby, you had me at hello. Ooh, I love you.
I know.
Ooh, ooh, baby, you're the wind beneath my wings. Ooh, I'll have what she's having.
Thank you for tuning into Romance in the Pod. You had us at hello. I'm Paige Wesley.
I'm Mikey Randolph.
And I'm Todd Schlosser, and this week I made you guys watch
Palm
Springs. So since I picked it, I get to go first, right?
You go first.
I love this movie. It is sort of a light, fun romp, and if you dig into it too much, it gets real dark. It is one of those things that, like, if you critically think about it, it's not great, but
Yeah.
I sort of like it, and I'll tell you why. Andy Samberg, terrible. But he's like charming and terrible, which I'm sort of here for. And this movie really drives home the plot that he does not deserve Sarah in the movie.
Yeah.
Because as he's like sulking towards the end of the movie, she's fucking figuring out like quantum physics. Like nobody deserves Sarah in their life. Sarah is just like this amazing woman. And I sort of love that trope of like the guy's just like, fuck it, I'm just going to relax and have eternity here. And Sarah's like, no, I'm going to figure out very high level like relativity to get us out of here.
I love this movie. I loved it when it came out because nothing was coming out that year.
You told me to check it out. It was during the pandemic. Yeah.
One, it makes me laugh. I love time loop movies. I will defend this movie because the ethics of a time loop are just kind of gray, and we can go into that, and that's fine.
Okay, there's some ethics of shit in this movie that is not gray that we will talk about.
I mean, mainly the people who aren't experiencing the loop aren't real things, so it doesn't like there's no consequences.
Wrong.
That is the way the movie treats it, though, Paige. Like, I'm not sure if Mikey thinks that is okay or if he's just saying that that's what the movie does, but that is what the movie does.
Yeah.
But I will say, I think the movie is best when she joins the loop and they have fun in it.
Yes.
I think they kind of had to artificially produce conflict between them again, which I didn't like. I think a better movie would be they fall for each other, are together in this time loop, and are making the best of it. She decides she wants out of the loop, starts researching it. Kind of like what we did, but with some tweaks. But like really the main decision the characters have is some would say this is a paradise because we get to live with people we love, for like a person we love forever. But we want out to live a real life and have that be the conflict, not just the sister, husband, fiance stuff. I think was a little unnecessary. Have it be more about their relationship and her wanting to leave because she wants the relationship to grow and watching them move forward and not just live the same day and bullshit around and like have more of a real relationship, and him like, we can do whatever we want here and nothing matters. We can live in the moment, and then like have that, which they kind of do, the philosophy differences, but like more about the relationship at their center and not have her tragic backstory of waking up with the fiance every day.
I think the tragic backstory is one of the only good parts of this movie. This movie works for me as a comedy, not as a romance. I don't think they should be together. I think Andy Samberg's the full-on villain. Like, so much so that it really... There are parts of the movie I love. I love when they're having fun in the time loop, their first couple days, when it is this idea of like, okay, if there are no consequences, if you get a reset every day, what do you do? Like, you know, what do you explore? What do you blow up? What do you try? And that is very fun as a thought experiment. Yes. As a romance, I hate this movie. This is not love at all. He is a manipulative, abusive person. I have a headcanon that I cannot prove, but it's based on the fact that he did not tell her they had slept together multiple times, which creates an imbalance in the relationship, which means he's manipulating her the entire time, which is not okay. But then on top of that, the first time that she knows of that they kind of start to hook up, kind of
the night she goes into the cave. Yeah.
The night she goes into the cave, he has already passengered somebody into that cave. We know that. He already did it to Roy. Roy is trying to kill him because of it. That's a very funny element of this movie. I do love that dynamic.
J.K. Simmons crushes it in that role too.
So
I love
good.
Roy so much. He's one of my favorite characters in the whole thing.
So good. But if you're Andy Samberg and you know that there is a cave that puts people in a loop, and you don't want to bring people into that loop, wouldn't you stay away from that loop place with other people? And we know it's not close. You have to go out to it.
She followed. I think he ran a good ways. I think that
No.
cave is only a mile away from the hotel.
No, because he gets shot twice. They're there. He wanders into the cave. She literally just follows him. He doesn't run that far. So my headcanon is his character, as we have seen in the film, has no drive, is completely apathetic and pessimistic, and would never make a definitive decision himself. He is literally stuck in limbo this entire time. I think that as he's hooking up with her, he's doing it close to the cave in hopes that one day she'll follow him in. Like he's passively passengering her.
I don't think. I think.
I mean,
that's
we
a
actually
stretch.
don't see that at all. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
don't know
against that
about that.
headcanon, but we don't see that at all.
Here's the headcanon, though. We know he's hooked up with her thousands of times. He even says it. So there's a part of me that's like, you know there's a cave. You know that she will hook up with you. That is a sure thing if you do the speech. So you hooked up with her feet away from the place where you know it would put her in this loop.
I don't think it was feet. I don't think.
Well, I mean, I do think it was close, Mikey, because he gets shot by Roy once. He runs off, and Roy runs past Sarah.
Runs past
and
her,
Sarah
yeah.
still follows them to the cave. So he can't be
On
that
foot.
far away. Yeah.
It's not far.
But when no one else can see Andy Samberg and he's going into whatever it is, he's yelling back, don't follow me in here. Like he's telling her not to follow in here. And there would be no reason for him to do that if it was
Yeah,
just
he would-
Yeah, there
him.
would. Yeah, there would. For him to justify, oh, I didn't drag you in here, because we know he feels bad about Roy. You came in of your own volition, so it's technically not my fault.
I think he learned his lesson with the. I think he was
I don't
very
think
adamantly
so.
not bringing other people into the loop.
I think the same thing too. But that's what the movie shows us.
I spent a lot of time. I watched this movie like 2 or 3 times in 2020, and I was like, "What if I just brought everybody into the cave?"
I mean, that's a horrifying thing to do to people.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. yeah, but like, wouldn't you? Okay, it's like my head canon. I think the movie implies is that he has been probably in this time loop for like 1,000 years.
Right, because he is not making the effort to get out.
Well, I think he probably did for the first 100 years.
Maybe, I mean, we have no idea how long he's there.
The way he can do all the skills and know I think he is there for like 1,000 years, which explains his like super apathy and his philosophy and his like, I've tried to die so many ways, and like the best thing to do is just drink and suffer life or whatever. Like his whole.
But I kind of
pessimistic
hate
thing.
that. I hate that
Yeah,
outlook.
but if you couldn't die, wouldn't that be what happens?
Here's the thing. If I had 1,000 years, I'd do what she did.
But not everybody would. I'm not good at math.
I'm
She
not good at
probably
math
wasn't
either.
good at math
she wasn't either.
But she fucking
But if you
figured
have-
it out in 8
Yes.
days or whatever. Like
No, it's. I
think it was hundreds. I think it was hundreds days. Yeah.
I think it's way longer than that. But I think it's.
Me too.
I think it's that drive of I need to figure this out. And my frustration with him is we don't really know much about him. We don't learn a ton about him. He doesn't grow at all. In the end of the movie, he wants her to stay in the loop while she is living out a really interesting growth arc of like going from a place of living in stagnation because it allows her to escape the guilt of what she's done to getting to a place where she's like, even though it's hard, even though I know it's going to suck, even though I know it's going to take time, I have to make things right for my own growth. Now, I disagree with her not telling the sister. I think that's a little fucked up.
Wouldn't you tell the sister? Like, just because
I would totally tell the
that's definitely
sister.
gonna blow up in your face in like a year. Like, you would tell
Yes.
her that day before she got married.
Yes.
Because that is the least amount of like damage you could do to everyone's relationship,
Yes.
right? Yeah, that's
Yeah.
I felt the same way, Paige.
I hated that she, in the day that she escapes, she does not tell her. So, like, that's the future that goes forward.
Yeah, she lets her sister get married to a man that she fucked the night before.
Yes.
Yeah.
I hated that. But there's a part of me that's like, I like the comedy aspects of this. I like her arc. To me, her arc is Fleabag season 1.
I think she's the main character. I mean, Andy Samberg is not.
But the movie doesn't understand that she is, and that's the problem.
I watched it and I was like, she's the main character. She has more of an arc. She's trying. I think it's more of like he had blind spots and like he felt he had tried everything.
But the movie literally cuts a half hour out of her story to watch him fuck around and be sad and learn nothing. Is she the main character? Does the movie know she's the main character? Because she should be. Her story's the most interesting.
This movie was critically like got really good reviews.
People criticized it. I'm criticizing it now. I'm not the only one. But here's my thing. They shouldn't end up together.
Oh, I don't think they end up together at the end.
They escape.
Yeah.
They escape together. But he's going to drag her down. He has no motivation. It is an unequal relationship, and he was willing to trick her into it.
Well, we don't know what he's like outside of a time loop.
But that's the thing. That's why they don't love each other. They don't really know each other outside of a world with no consequences in a time loop.
I wish they spent, that's why I said I wish they spent more time together. Like,
Yeah.
we've watched like 4 or 5 movies where like 45 minutes is them like hanging out, then they sleep together and then separate immediately. Like, I need them.
Yeah.
Because he was almost there for me. Like, he was like, hey, last night, today feels different. Like, he like was like growing. And then the movie was like, right turn.
But then we find out that he's done it thousands of times and didn't tell her about it for the amount of time that they've been together in the loop.
Oh, yeah. That could have been the conflict enough. That could have been like him being like, I had no consequences every day. Like, I lived, I did 100 years before I slept with somebody, but I literally think this is my personal, like, there's people could rationalize stuff, but I'm just saying they almost had a growth arc where like every day that they could have moved forward in their own like relationship timeline, but we don't see any of that.
Him not telling her bothered me so much.
When did you want him to tell her then? Because he does tell her.
Immediately.
So every day you want him to get up and be like, okay, I fucked you 1,000 times. I fucked that old lady. I fucked your dad.
I mean,
like, every
here's
morning?
the thing.
Okay.
Every day that he's done it, she has made the decision to do it, but she has no memory of that.
Right. I mean, no one does except for him and Roy.
Which is so ironic because your favorite romantic comedy is 50 First Dates.
He tells her every fucking morning, Mikey.
In a video.
So in a video, whatever, but he tells her. So in this scenario, every day she makes the choice to do it. Fine. But the second that she gets into the loop where now she remembers what happened and has more agency in making that choice and doesn't make that choice.
It's a weird decision since he is so honest about everything else.
I don't think he is. That's why I think he's the villain, because she asks him and he says no. That's a full-on lie.
Yeah, so when she follows him into the loop that next day when she asks, that's when he should have agree.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
agree.
when he should have told her.
Everybody agrees. I don't think he's a full-on villain, though. I think he's driven mad by his situation.
I don't care. That's full-on villain behavior. That's bullshit.
Or is that, I mean, she did forgive him and then ended up sleeping with him.
No, she doesn't find out until after they've slept together again.
Well, she does say, I love you after all of that. I mean, that's her. She chooses that.
Which I think is awful. I think it's a manipulative, abusive situation because I feel like he has intimate knowledge of her from thousands and thousands of times that she has no idea about. Mm-hmm. That's such an imbalance. And for him to not tell her is manipulative and really grosses me out.
Yeah, I mean, he does tell her about halfway through the movie. I think they held that out because they needed some sort of conflict to separate them so she can go on her, I'm going to learn super advanced levels of string theory or whatever the fuck it is.
But she could have done that. She could have done that without him lying to her.
No, I agree.
Because she could have been dealing with that regret. I mean, like, hey, this isn't real. Our relationship is great, but this is not real because we're in a fucking time loop.
That's what she's saying to him almost the entire movie, though. Like, that's...
So they didn't need to play up the line, which is what I was trying to kind of say.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like he lets her get emotionally invested and choose to sleep with him for emotional reasons, not just hooking up, not just being drunk, which is how it always happens before. She, like, gets invested, they hook up, and then it's literally not until she's maybe apprehensive the next day that he then tells her. And then even as they kind of make up at the end of the movie, he wants her to stay in the loop. He wants her to wake up in a situation every morning where she is in emotional pain that she wants to resolve. He wants to keep her stagnated.
Yeah, that's because that's where he is, Paige. This whole thing, like, Andy Samberg does have a growth arc. So he has an Arrested Development level, like, not willing to grow up, not wanting to be an adult, and that's why he's stuck in this loop. Maybe that's not why he's stuck in the loop, but that's why he's unwilling to leave it.
No, I think the loop causes that. We don't know what he was like before the loop.
We don't know that. So to say that he wasn't like that before that, no one knows. So there's no way to know that. But through him falling in love with her, he decides that he does want to come out of it and be in a real relationship with her. I don't think their relationship's going to work because I think she's sort of, she had her own issues too, but I think she was always an adult. She just made a few bad decisions, whereas he's like 13, you know, like that's what I mean by Arrested Development. He is like not even an adult in this movie until like the last 3 minutes.
But I don't think he is in the last 3 minutes. I think he just doesn't want to be alone. Like, it is a choice made out of, please don't leave me here. Like, I would rather not be here with you or die, but don't leave me here alone, which I understand from a time loop perspective, but that's not love. And I don't think that's growth. I think it's desperation.
I mean, that's just a different way of looking at it, and that's not necessarily what's in the movie. I don't know. It is also in the movie, too, though. Like, it's hard to say, because we're, like, projecting a lot of shit that's, like...
Because they don't give him much in the movie. Like, we don't know anything about him.
No, we don't find out he has a dog until the last 3 seconds of the movie.
Stuff like that, where, like they spend so much time on great jokes, like, very funny, but, like...
Yeah, this movie's hilarious.
We don't know him, and so it is to the movie's detriment if you want to make it a love story. If you want to make this movie just about her personal growth and cut a bunch of his stuff out of it, it's a way better movie, especially if they don't end up together.
I would say it's probably a better romance than it...
No, not even a romance, just a movie. Like, it's a better comedy because it's just about her growth. Like, I think
So you're saying if you cut out the comedy of Andy Samberg, it's a better comedy?
No. If you cut out the romance of Andy Samberg, it's a better comedy. Like, if we focus on her growth, if you cut him out of the movie completely, it is a way better comedy. Because then it's just one girl trying everything she can in a time loop.
That movie's been done.
And, like, madness. It's kind of been done. It's Groundhog Day. But it's one of those things where he is so problematic to me in this movie, I can't enjoy the rest of it.
Clearly.
Yeah, this is going to be fun.
Yeah.
First of all, I'm surprised, Mikey, that you picked this based on your VR porn history.
I
did not pick this.
Oh, sorry. It's right. It was Todd. I'm surprised you like this based on your VR porn history, given what we know happens in the movie.
I'm not her. You mean the sister? I mean, the main character?
Yeah, the cheating. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't like that. I was like,
yeah,
I've been in that VR situation.
Yeah.
What if it was a VR time loop situation?
Ooh, Existence is the movie you're thinking about.
That was so nasty when they put the worms
It's
on
real
their
gross.
face. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Have you seen that movie, Todd?
Absolutely
No, of course
not.
he hasn't. Todd's never seen a Cronenberg movie in his life.
It's like the Matrix in like VR headsets, but it's all like organic technology. So they put like slugs on their face to experience VR, and it's like, nah, this is weird.
Well, they also have like a port, like a
Yeah.
port in their like the small of their back.
So it's like
real
Johnny
gross.
Mnemonic is what you're saying.
Way grosser.
I do love Johnny Mnemonic, though.
I like the comedy of this movie a lot. I don't, you're coming at it so hard. It's so hard to like not laugh. I mean, because I don't know. It's kind of silly for me, but I think he shouldn't have lied to her.
Yeah.
And for sure, I think it's one of those things where it was interesting to see a person who like never got out of the time loop. Like, what would he be like?
Yeah, but
He'd be
again,
a
because we don't know
monster.
how long he's been in there.
He would
Yeah,
be, like if Bill Murray's character like never got out.
yeah.
And it was in the time loop for 1,000 years.
But that's the thing. So it's like, is it 1,000 years? Because if it is 1,000 years, I mean, he's still a monster and it's terrible, but you kind of get it. But what if it's not 1,000 years? What if it was only 2 weeks longer than her?
I think it's longer because of like what he can do and predict in the loop.
I mean, yeah, but how long would it take you to learn some of that stuff? I mean, maybe it's months, maybe it's whatever.
I read about the movie and they say he's in the loop for like 1,000 or something years or something like that.
Yeah.
Jesus.
I wish that had been in the movie.
Well, you like infer it with like things he can do or like things he can predict.
I mean, I don't think it would take him 1,000 years to do that, but you know, I feel like 1,000 years he would have at least tried the quantum mechanics part.
What if he didn't? He failed. Well, you don't see
Maybe.
that. Mm-hmm.
You don't see that.
Like if I was stuck in like a personal hell and they're like, you have to math your way out. You have 1,000 years. I'd be like, I'm so fucked. Hand me a beer.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. Maybe he just didn't. Some people have more self-discipline than others. And maybe he was like, well, I guess I could just make the best of it.
I mean, in 1,000 years, I would figure it out. And I'm bad at
Same
math.
Paige. Yeah, I suck at math, but I would do my fucking best.
It is kind of weird that like the math solution is just blow yourself up in the cave.
Well, she has to find out like exactly when you would
Yeah.
do it and like what's going on. And yeah.
I feel like I would figure out blowing myself up in the cave without quantum physics
On accident?
faster than researching it.
Mikey, personally, I know if you were stuck in a time loop for 1,000 years, you would have been practicing blowing yourself a lot longer than that.
Yeah.
I don't want that. Okay, here's how I would escape. Are you ready? Because it's a
Sure.
monster level villain plot. I would not just Zoom with some of these people. I would kidnap them and bring them back into the time loop and throw
Oh,
them
so
in
they
with
could
me.
figure it out as
Yeah,
well.
I'd be like, I'm in a time loop. Now where you are.
See, this is what I'm fucking saying. This
Yeah.
is just beach passengers or desert passengers. Because that was your same suggestion in Passengers.
Yeah, Palm Springs Passengers, PSP. My problem with that, Mikey, specifically was like, because I thought to myself, oh, I could just get all of like my friends and family and talk to them and see if they want to come into this with me and then take them into it, right? But then they all start every day where they are. So if I'm like at a vacation
yeah.
destination wedding, even if I could get my friends to come to me that day, they would have to make that trek every day, and no one's going to want to do that. Like,
but at least you could talk on the phone and stuff.
True. But I mean, I also think that I wouldn't want to do it forever. Like,
I wouldn't want to do that to other people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If we figured out a surefire way to get out of it, I'd be like, all right, but let's take like 3 weeks and just really go ham and have like invite people to have fun with us. Have like an extended wedding like party.
Paige, you could eat a person without consequence.
Oh, I knew this was gonna come up.
Here's my frustration with that though. There is some stuff that's just fun, that's no consequences, that doesn't hurt anybody or whatever. But there are also decisions in this movie that characters make that are so selfish and hurtful to the people around them. And it's kind of treated with this like, what are you going to do? Life is crazy. And I'm like, no, you made choices.
That's why time loop movies are so because if you really get into the like philosophy and like the reality of that situation, because I know that in 100 years of that loop, they wouldn't be people. They would just be props around you in your VR simulation.
Right.
You would be capable of monstrous, horrible
That's
things.
why he's the villain, because that's how he treats her.
But he also says like, hey, the pain we cause people is real. Living with that pain is hard to do.
But then he does it to her.
He does emotional stuff, but I'm talking about like real. I'm talking about like,
yeah.
Let's cut somebody's legs off one by one and see how he reacts.
And then eat them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like really monstrous. Like, let's make 2 people fight to the death and see if that makes me laugh.
I love how being in a time loop turned Mikey into Mark Antony. Like, what the hell?
I think I would just never stop trying to get out.
Same.
Like, whatever it took.
I'm kind of with Todd. We'd be like, let's go 3 weeks ham. And then like that turns into like 300 weeks.
But you have to have a way out. Like, you have to have a surefire way out. Like, you would have to do the goat thing or whatever. Like,
Right.
Send Sarah out and be like, hey, I'll see you in 3 weeks or whatever. Or it'll be the same for you.
If there was a library in that town and like I would go to that little pool with that little float and read a lot of books and chill the fuck out for a long time.
That's fair if you knew you had a way out. But like, if you don't know that you have a way out, I would never stop looking for a way out.
Well, at least this one has a cave. Can you imagine like the other movies we have, like there is no like clear
there is no way out.
Supernatural thing. You're just like, be a good person.
That makes it more difficult. And not because being a good person would be super difficult for me. It would, but that's not why. But it would be so confusing as to like, shit, well, what is quote unquote good?
Right.
Who is the judge of what is good? What is their morality? How do I live according to that? That would be impossible to find out.
Like if I'm trapped in a time loop with you two, you would have so much fun with me because I would wake up and be like, get ready. It's bank robbery day. Have you ever robbed a bank?
I would love to rob a bank. I would.
What? Exactly.
But then you don't get to keep any of the money.
No, you don't, but you get to feel it. You get to shoot some
that's
people.
fair. That's fair.
And you have like dollars flying around as you drive off and you're shooting in the air.
There's no way that doesn't end for me specifically the way it ends for every henchman in the first movie with Joker for Batman. Because Mikey would shoot me immediately as we pulled away with the money.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, what I would do is an elaborate Dark Knight reference where I was like, I'm supposed to shoot the Todd. And then like I take off my mask. And I'm
That's
like,
what I was saying. Yeah, absolutely.
I'll tell them about this joke tomorrow. Because you just wake up the next day if you die.
Well, yeah. Like, I would be Dave in the Patreonicals. Like, that's what
Think
that
about
was.
the ethics of that. Like, if there's no consequences and people don't exist past the next day, of how bonkers that gets so quickly.
Yeah, well, and they do some really fun stuff with that in this movie.
Yeah.
They just also do some real dark, upsetting stuff with it in this movie.
So I guess my scale is different because you'd have one day where you'd be like, I'm gonna kill everyone in this town.
Yeah, of course.
What? Why is that? Yeah, of course. I would definitely not do that.
No, I here's the thing. If you could do it in a way like minimal pain, I guess, but like, you know, they're coming back the next day or whatever. But if all of those people were suddenly in the loop, you'd probably have to tell them that you killed them. Like,
oh, yeah.
Oh, you would have to tell them because they would know, right?
You would, but they
remember
would
you killing
know.
them.
I killed you a million times.
They have no memory. Yeah, I killed you a million times.
They don't even have a scale to measure that. Like, one time
I've killed you a
hunted
million times. It's nothing personal, but like, you know.
I was bored.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, lying on the scale of evil shit you can do in a time loop is just low for me.
But it's not just lying. It is him influencing her loop.
The problem is that she is now self-aware.
Yes.
And he is still lying to her. I understand
Yes.
what you're saying, Paige.
That's the
Yeah.
ethics of it.
Yeah, that's the ethics of
As
it.
soon as she woke up, he should have been like brutally honest. Like, we've had sex 1,000 times. I've been here 1,000 years. I'm going crazy. I'm mad. Nothing means anything.
Yes.
I am dying inside.
Yeah. Because him not telling her, to me, is the same as Passengers when he doesn't tell her he woke her up. Like, that's the same level it is for me.
Yeah, but I think this is a better movie than Passengers.
It's more watchable for sure. It's definitely a better movie than Passengers, but it has that same ethical slice in the middle of it.
I feel bad for the Roy situation because they did so much coke and then they went through the loop.
Well, and that one, I'm like, dude, you did not tell Roy anything about this. You killed Roy. You passengered Roy 100%. And they don't get Roy to tell him the answer. I would hope they go to his house.
They do.
Or something.
Paige, did you watch the post-credit scene?
No, it didn't include one.
So I think they retconned this after they shot the movie because in like, I don't know, it's maybe like a minute into the credits. It cuts back to the wedding and Roy walks up to the bartender and he's like, you hear him saying, he's like starting to talk to Andy Samberg. He's like, hey, shitbird, your girlfriend sent me a message saying that you can get out if you blow up at the right time. And Andy's like, who are you? You see J.K. Simmons like go, oh shit, it worked. So now he knows how to do it because Sarah.
She left him a
but
detailed
again,
message.
It was Sarah, not Andy Samberg.
Because
Sarah is like the hero or heroine of this movie.
Sarah has a fucking soul is the thing in this movie.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that no men deserve any women, and this movie sort of really drives home that theory.
Anyway, so
yeah, maybe we should just get into the movie and talk about it scene by scene.
So we open on an earthquake in the desert. The ground splits up, and we see an eye open up, and we hear good morning, and we see Andy Samberg's day. So this is the day that he lives in every day. We will find out, but this is the first time we're seeing it. So he wakes up watching his girlfriend putting on lotion.
That's a good leg.
Compliments her leg, and they have some morning sex, but she stops before they finish so that she can get ready for the wedding.
Every girl I've ever dated. It's good to see her in the movie.
She's kind of a terrible person.
Yeah, she is, Paige.
Yeah, Paige.
Yeah, I don't like her either. Like she's bad for kind of a lot of reasons. But one of my favorites is that so we don't even know how long they've dated, because she's like a bridesmaid and ostensibly part of the group of friends, and no one knows Andy Samberg's name. And it comes up a bunch when he gets into the repeats later, where he just constantly has to be like, I'm Misty's boyfriend.
Yeah. I got the impression that he and her had been dating a while, like at least a year or whatever. But just he does not like her friends or never went out and hung out with her friends and stuff. Probably because she was trying to sleep with the guy who marries the couple at the ceremony.
The officiant.
Right? Yeah, the officiant with coke.
Here's the other thing. The officiant may or may not be one of their friends, because there's there's comments people make about him where they're like, that weird guy in the suit, but then he also has the drugs on him.
Yeah.
So I
got the impression that he was one of their friends, but also like could marry people. Like I have a friend like that.
Yeah.
I mean, technically I could marry people because I got certified that one time during a recording.
I have married people.
Oh, that's right, Mikey.
Yeah. Anyway, so he didn't finish in time, and she's kind of blaming him for it.
Well, and she tells him to finish while she's getting ready. And then he's like just jerking it to her, like complaining about not being able to find something in her suitcase.
Yes.
And that, I don't know. It was very like awkward, but it made me laugh. I couldn't help but laugh because it was like, it's ridiculous.
It's very awkward.
Yeah. Like, why not just stop jerking off? Like, it's not going to happen, Andy.
What? Why?
Because she's not into it. I don't get turned on by women complaining about not finding things in their suitcase. So, like, it's not going to happen for me.
Yeah, or just wait for her to get ready and leave and then resume later. Whatever.
He's done this a million times. He's done with those kind of thought processes. He's like, it's my time now.
I guess. Anyway, so she's like, be nice. I know you don't like weddings, but it's Tala and Abe's day. Just be happy and smiley. We cut to them setting up for the wedding, and he's in the pool with one of the groomsmen just hanging out.
Yeah, like he hands him a beer. Like these are the shots you see a bunch throughout the movie, like him jumping in the pool and then him on the pizza float and handing the beer to the groomsmen. Like that whole thing exchange happens a bunch in the movie.
Yes. We cut to the wedding, where, by the way, he is just in his swim trunks and a t-shirt. And I do think it's funny that, like, we see some, like, shots of him historically at repeat weddings where he's still wearing the suit.
Yes.
And then eventually he just gives up.
Eventually he gives up. I love that.
I do love that no one at the wedding is like, dude, why didn't you wear your suit? Like, everyone
no
is
one
like,
cares.
this fucking dude. And it's the first time they've seen him do that. And they're just like, whatever, man. Like, I hate that guy.
Misty's boyfriend's fucking weird. Yeah. So we cut to the wedding where his girlfriend is giving a speech and she's doing terrible.
It's so bad.
First of all, if you're giving wedding toasts or wedding speeches, keep them under a minute every time. If you have multiple pieces of paper, you've already failed.
Yeah.
If you looked up the dictionary definition of anything, you failed. Literally, it should fit on a 3x5 card and you should have it memorized so you don't need it.
And if you're quoting from 1 Corinthians, you failed.
You failed. That's the minister's job.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she's got literally a 2-page, like, love, the definition of love and the definition of commitment. It is full terrible. It's one of the worst toasts I've ever seen.
It is terrible. And I do love that she, like, obviously wrote jokes and, like, is expecting people to laugh at them, but the jokes are terrible. And she'll, like, pause after a joke. And then, like, you get reaction takes from everybody and everyone's like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah.
Like, there's one reaction take from the bride's dad, who is Peter Gallagher. And
Peter Gallagher.
During that reaction take, I laughed so hard because you can tell he's, like, laughing because it's funny, but he's also like, what the hell is going on? It's so great.
He does a really good job in this movie.
He does. Dude, in the scene where Andy and him are having sex or about to have sex, dude, Peter
so
Gallagher is giving everything in that scene, and I love it. Although I don't think that actually happened because I think it was
didn't.
a joke.
It was a
Yeah.
I also feel like he was giving it everything when, like, her teeth fall out.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah, we found someone who glues teeth. I did. I do love some of the failed wedding days are very funny, but this is one where, so this speech goes terrible. And as someone who has given way too many wedding speeches,
I'd imagine you get asked to do it all the time just because you'd be really good at it.
I get asked almost every time.
Yeah.
And almost every time I'm attending a wedding, I have to do it. The last wedding I went to a couple weeks ago, I wasn't asked, but every single person nailed it under a minute, like 2-joke maximum, by the way. Get in, get out, keep it about the bride and groom, and keep it pushing.
That is Mikey's philosophy right there. Get in, get out, keep it about the bride and groom, and keep pushing.
Keep it pushing. So they then are like, okay, the bride's older sister has to give a toast. And she's like, what? I had no idea. Which, first of all, I'm like, girl, come on. Like, you're the maid of honor.
I mean, she's kind of like a mess.
She is a mess. And I don't know why they had Misty giving any speech anyway. I have to imagine that Misty horned her way into that.
Yeah, so at first, when Missy's giving the speech, I was like, oh, maybe like Talia and Sarah have like a rift and she wasn't asked to be the maid of honor, just a bridesmaid, because we do see her up there.
Right.
And then that would make sense. But like when Missy asked Sarah to come up and give a speech, I was like, well, why the fuck is Missy talking? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Shut up. And she's got like these sparkly things around her eyes.
Oh, yes.
It's Misty is a piece of work. My headcanon is that she inserted herself into that position and asked if she could make a speech.
Yes, I will say this. She is terrible, and obviously, like, she's cheating on Andy Samberg. Like, she's a bad person. The girl who plays her fucking nails everything about that performance.
Nails it.
So, like, we're going to talk about how much we hate Missy, but just know the girl who's playing her crushes it.
She is crushing
it. I
it.
always make a speech when I insert myself in that position.
Oh, jeez. I feel like you would date Misty.
100%. I would be like, guys, I don't think she's very nice. And Paige would be like, I fucking don't talk to me about this. That's what Paige would say.
No, Paige would say, I'm going to hit you with some harsh truths. And then she would say
But I would
that.
know. I would just be like, she's cheating on me, but she's like really nice. And Paige would be like, oh.
Yeah, so I've dated Missy twice. So, like, I've been in this situation before. It sucks.
I mean, my favorite was when we were talking about someone that you had seen recently. And you were like, I can't believe she did this mean thing. And I was like, tell me one nice story about her. Because I have not heard one.
That's I told my mom we were supposed to hang out. And she's like, do you think that's a good idea?
Yes, Mikey's mom. We're on the same team.
She's like, do you remember 5 years ago? And I was like, that's a fair point.
And you have told me multiple stories about this person. None of them are good. all of them sound terrible. And I'm like, if you can tell me a nice story where maybe I just didn't hear one, sure.
And I don't talk about her a lot because that's like a distant ex.
Both of you know this person.
Yes.
Neither one of you had a nice story about her. And so I was like, so this is expected behavior, right?
Paige, I don't know her very well. I've met her maybe 5 times, but I can confidently say, yes, this was expected behavior.
Right, thank you.
Oh, Mikey. She's out there, Mikey. We just got to keep looking for her.
When people tell you who they are, believe them.
Yes.
Mikey life update. I have had a really great, I am in probably the best mental health I've been in
Good.
a year, at least probably 3 years. I mean, I'm exercising again. I'm cooking more.
What happened 3 years ago that turned your life around? Could it be someone asked you to be on a podcast and that person became like your best friend? And
Todd, age check. That was longer than 3 years ago.
Yeah, Horror Virgin's almost 4 years old.
no, I think it's just over 4 years old, but Mikey didn't start
Yeah.
right away. So yeah, you're
3
probably
years.
close to 4 years. That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I was on the podcast for about 6 months. Well, I had a breakup and then COVID and the tornado and then
Right.
a lot of family stuff and
I think the pool is the key.
Absolutely. When you buy yourself a $150 plastic pool to sit in your backyard, life gets better.
Yeah.
My mom calls me today and she was like, she's been doing water. My mom is also on a weight loss journey where
Oh,
she
that's
goes to water
great.
aerobics every day.
Good for her.
Fun.
And she's lost like 15, 20 pounds. Like she's
Shit,
like
great
killing.
job. That's amazing.
I love water aerobics. It's the best. There's no sweating. There's no hard breathing.
It
It's
honestly
just
is
fun.
pretty great, and it's really good for you, Paige.
She
Yeah,
says
yeah,
she
yeah.
sweats all the. She's like sweating in the pool because she's like killing it. She's like tells her friends all this stuff at water aerobics. She's like, I was telling so and so that I went over to your pool, and she's like, they call it the Redneck Riviera at
It is.
water class.
Yes.
Because my mom went in there and was like, so he's got this pool and surrounding it are beer cans because he just drinks a beer and throws the can out while he's floating.
Oh my God, Mikey.
I mean,
oh.
it would be true Redneck Riviera if it was a stock tank pool, which I have like a whole Pinterest page of. Yeah, well, because so many people have like really done them well. Like,
Oh yeah.
amazing
seen
stock
really
tank
good ones.
pools. Yeah. The girl who made my custom jacket has a really cool one. Which by the way, I bought a custom jacket just in time to not wear it in the hot weather.
So I started feeling good again.
Custom jacket in summer?
That's really stupid. It's like the quarry game that we play where it's a summer camp and everybody's wearing long sleeve sweater crop tops. And I'm like, that has to be warm. Like I'd be sweating.
Right?
Hey, Paige, who did you have make your custom jacket, and can they make me the white leather jacket from 310 to Yuma?
So they cannot. So
Damn.
what they do is they like
Specific.
like you give them a jacket and then they do vintage chain stitching. So like
Okay. Cool. That's cool, but yeah.
I got like the perfect denim jacket, which took me a long time to find. And it has my roast battle name on the back.
Oh, nice. What's your roast battle name?
Rampage. But like,
I like it. But if you could get me the Ben Foster jacket from 310 to Yuma, DM me. I will buy that
So funny.
immediately.
I mean, they could make us Horror Virgin jackets.
As long as mine looks like 310 to Yuma, I'm into it.
It's not gonna. And it
Actually,
would have to be denim.
I would take a denim jacket with like a big like Horror Virgin patch on the back and have it just like walk around like 1980s like greaser kids or whatever they were called. I don't even
Let's
know.
make them vests instead of jackets.
Oh, hell
So
yeah.
If we were in a time loop, we could do that.
Or we could just do it like this.
And then we can make someone eat them at gunpoint.
Mikey, what is going on that you think of things like this?
How many pool beers have you had today?
What you can't see, because we can only see Mikey's upper torso, is there are beer cans all around him on the floor.
Circle.
No, so I'm in a good mood. So I've started dating again. So Todd and Paige have reluctantly had to listen to dating stories. Like,
Reluctantly, they are the highlight of my week, Mikey.
oh,
I mean, only when they go really bad.
and they always
Yeah,
do.
that's often.
That's
Yeah.
very often.
One girl said I was not the connection she was looking for, and she was like, I think it was because you were really good at flirting on text.
Oh, so you're not good at flirting in person was the implication.
No, it just means that the connection is different in person, and I think that's fair.
It is difficult to navigate.
It is difficult to navigate.
Yeah. But and honestly, like that's the kind of feedback you want immediately so you don't waste your time like
Right.
thinking about them or wondering if it's gonna work out. Like dating is sort of like waiting to hear back about a job you've applied for. Like it's like
Yeah.
there's a lot of
Yeah.
like anxiety around are they
Yeah,
gonna
we're just
text
not
you
a
back
good
and all that
fit.
shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, a lot of times you end up looking at your Tinder and it's like, sorry, we've reviewed your application, but we've decided to go in a different direction, but we'll keep you in mind for future positions or whatever.
That's why on a date when they ask me how old I am, I'm like, that's an illegal question.
You're not allowed to be ageist. That's illegal.
Yeah.
I'm reporting you to the government dating board.
I mean, it could be like the email I got from Just for Laughs that's like, hey, it's a no this year. But also, this is not the only way that your career could progress, and you got so far to get to this point, you should still be proud of you. And I was like, I like that you're trying, but like, it's okay.
That's nicer than the texts I get.
The texts you get are like, I remember 5 years ago, and I'm still going to be mean.
When someone who is bad to you reaches out and says, hey, we should grab a drink and reconnect, you should say like, I'm good, thank you.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Yeah. Nothing about what you've gone through in the past 5 years interests me. So I'm going to say no to this drink. Thank you so much, though.
Thank you, yeah.
I think a better movie would be being stuck in a time loop at a wedding that your ex is at, and she gets stuck in the time loop, and you guys were terrible with each other.
Right, or you,
And then you either
work
reconnect.
shit out.
Yeah.
I actually really do like that.
Here for that. I am here for that.
Hang on. Do I need to cut that so we can write that movie?
Like, what if they went like 3 weeks murdering each other? Like, straight up.
But here, this is going to sound terrible. The catharsis of that.
Yeah.
Would be great. Why? We could write that movie. Think about this film. They're getting married. The ex is one of the bridesmaids. Sniper shot right through the chest. She falls down. Everybody's screaming. You walk up and you're like,
Yes.
got you, bitch. See you tomorrow.
You kick the guy who's doing the officiating in the chest
As they're like
and just
beating
walk
him to
away.
death.
Yeah.
I love that. I think one of the parts of that works even better for me than this movie is that they enter the time loop at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah,
That solves so many problems for me.
Or if like she was on the peripheral of the wedding and then got in the time loop where he never spent time with her.
Yeah, sure. But like for me, the imbalance in their relationship is solved with them entering the time loop together.
Yeah.
Even if they're not attracted. And
that'd be
they
so funny.
but that is really like exes in a time loop.
Like that
sniper
hate
shot.
like, yeah. like literally.
Like she just like machetes his head off.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love this
or like
so
they have
much.
a sweet moment and then she just like fucking stabs.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love everything about this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they break up driving to the wedding.
Yes. Or like it doesn't have to be a wedding, but like whatever. They break up
Sure,
on the
yeah.
way to the time loop. Yeah.
Yeah, like I like the wedding because then we can do crazy things at like a ceremony like that.
Yes,
but
I
like
like
they're
that
going
too.
to the wedding, they're breaking up, and they're just like, all right, listen, we got to hold it together for Talia and the groom or whatever, right? We're gonna pretend we're still together for today. This is the last day. We'll tell them in a week or whatever.
Ooh, I can one up you.
They are the bride and groom, and one of them
She
catches the
leaves
other
them
one
at the
cheating.
aisle.
Yeah.
Okay, that'd work too. That'd be great too. Yeah.
Yes.
And then at the end of the movie, we get a wedding, guys.
Yeah.
Somebody called George Clooney and Julia Roberts
They're too
to
old.
produce this movie with much younger people because it's gonna be great. Like,
I need this to be Anna Faris, and
She's a little old too.
she is old too,
but
but
she
she's got
would
the
be
amount of
so
crazy.
good. She would
Like
kill it.
her with a machine gun. I'm here. I'm in it.
Chris Evans and Anna Faris reunited.
From What's Your Number?
and it feels so good, honestly. I would
Honestly,
watch that.
Chris Evans would do great.
He would. He's funny, man.
He'd be super funny. He'd do awesome. I'm trying to think of somebody that's even a little more Max Greenfield or Adam Pally.
Mm-hmm.
Like a really go real comedy forward with it.
I love Max Greenfield.
Oh, I do
I love Max Green. Jake from New Girl. I forget his last name.
Hey, I have a bad pitch.
Sure.
Jake Johnson and Max Greenfield are the couple.
That's not a bad pitch. That's a great pitch.
I love those two together, and it's hard to tell, but like I've seen a lot of like BuzzFeed videos that they do together and stuff, and they do genuinely seem like they are good friends and love each other, and I bet we could get them to do that movie. Like if we had a great script, we could get them.
I mean, here's the thing. If we're gonna make it a gay couple, I
we
want
probably
it to
should
be
use
gay
actors. That's fair. Yeah.
But I feel like you could apply this same, like, okay, hear me out. You just redirect the focus. Jake Johnson is getting married. Max Greenfield is his groomsman.
Yeah.
He catches Max Greenfield with the bride, and then he and Max Greenfield get stuck in the time loop, and they have to find their way back to becoming friends again. Like that's what that is if you want to make
do
it the
more of like a
bromance
friendship,
version.
yeah.
Right.
No, but I kind of like the couples. Like,
Yeah, I like the
what if
couples
the bride
still.
and groom were like
Yeah,
cheating
yeah.
on each other or
Yeah.
something.
Right.
Like they were both just like really shitty people at the beginning.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
I'm gonna have to cut all of this so we can just like write it and produce it.
I mean, I worry about it being a wedding because then it's going to be so similar to this movie, but like,
New Year's Eve party. There you go.
there you go.
And then they kiss at midnight.
I think the countdown restarts the day.
Wait, Christmas. This is the perfect Christmas movie.
Somebody call Hallmark! What are we doing?
No, a very violent time loop Christmas movie.
Yes.
And we have our title, guys.
Yeah.
And we
Yes.
have our title.
A very violent time loop Christmas movie.
Tell me you wouldn't watch that movie, though.
I
you
would, 100%.
absolutely watch a very violent time loop Christmas. You have Bill Murray do a cameo. Like, there's no way this is not a smash hit.
I feel like, and this is going to sound terrible, I could write that movie. Maybe cut that out because I could write a time loop Christmas movie.
Very violent time loop Christmas movie.
What if we made a very violent time loop Christmas a part of the Terminator universe in
Christmas
some way?
Terminator movie?
I mean, how is it not already? Like, why are we not doing that?
Just how many more days till Judgment Day instead of Christmas?
We're getting off track. All right, next scene.
We
Next
gotta
scene.
move on.
Next
We gotta move
scene. Anyway, so Sarah doesn't want to give the speech. She's been drinking.
Oh, that's where we are. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first scene. Yeah.
Yeah.
51 minutes in, by the way.
Andy Samberg walks up and does the speech instead and does a great speech. And by
So
the way,
good.
it is under a minute. He nails it.
Yeah, he crushes it.
My favorite though is that he comments on them. He's like, and they don't not look like siblings.
And they do
They
look
do.
like siblings,
They
like
do look like
aggressively.
siblings.
Yeah, I do feel like they cast those two actors, and they're fine. They're not bad actors by any means, but they do
No.
look alike, and I bet that was
Yes.
part of the casting process.
Yes. But he basically does the speech. He bails her out.
Yeah.
And then kind of approaches her at the wedding, and she's trying to fend off one of the other groomsmen, who is, I think, Randy, who's gross. And she's like, I already told you no.
I mean, they're at a wedding. Everybody's Randy. Am I right?
yeah.
I'm going to drop the air horn sound effect.
I thought since you had more to drink, it might have changed your mind. And she's like, nope. But Andy Samberg makes his way over and he strikes up a conversation. And what we'll find out later in the movie is that his in with her, his flirting with her is actually things that he's learned about her along the way. So it's kind of a loaded deck, which is not great, but
But I mean, if you're stuck in a time loop, you're going to naturally, like, I bet he has interviewed everybody at that wedding, you know?
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Like in the flashbacks to when he's in the time loop trying to sleep with the bride, like that shit made me laugh so hard. Because
It was very funny.
He's wearing it. I mean, it would be terrible. Don't get me wrong, but he's wearing the same thing he wore to the first wedding we see: swim trunks,
Right.
Hawaiian shirt, but he's got a black tie on. And he's like, do you mind if I cut in? And they're like, it's our first dance. Is that a deal breaker? Like, that's so hard. It's terrible, but it's so funny.
Well, and that if he had not slept with her before. So if he's not lying to her, that series of confessions and cutaways is so funny.
Yeah.
Or if he would have admitted the truth and he's like, look, I
Yes.
know a ton about you because I've been in this time loop for 1,000 years. I've slept with you a bunch of times.
We've hooked up a
I
bunch.
never
yeah.
thought anybody would be here to discover what I'm doing.
Right.
And she was like,
but
oh,
here's
okay.
who else I hooked up with.
Yeah, exactly. And then she's like, okay. And she's just it's like, okay, that's okay, I guess. Like, I don't remember any of that. So,
Yeah.
like, that one throwaway line would, like, make it all better.
It would make a lot of this movie better for me. That and if they enter the time loop at the same time. Those are the two things that or if they don't end up together. Any conglomeration of those three fixes a lot of stuff in this movie for me.
And I also kind of hated, while we're talking about stuff,
Sure.
because at the end she's like, you would choose me out of everybody, even if you weren't in a time loop. Like, I thought she was overcoming that insecurity. I don't know. Like, I just felt like the writers weakened her character by that kind of line.
I did too, because in my watching her and really enjoying her storyline, I felt like she had gained so much personal strength and a personal moral code. And that's why it kind of reminds me of Fleabag, where it's like, I have realized that the problem in a lot of this is me, and I want to make it right, even if it's gonna be hard. And I'm gonna work at it even though it's hard, and I'm gonna go back. I am determined. So yeah, for me, that kind of weakened her a little bit, but also not telling the sister weakened it a little bit for
yeah.
me.
Same. I mean, just from a completely like self-interested standpoint, I would tell her before the wedding because it's going to suck.
Yes.
But if she finds out in a year, it's going to be so much worse.
Thank you.
And he'll tell her. He seemed like a little bitch.
Oh, he definitely would tell her. The way he breaks down crying in the shower,
Yeah.
there's no way he's not going to tell her eventually. Because you can tell it's fucking with him too. Like,
Is it, or is he just an asshole and coming
That's what
down
I-
off
he
drugs?
don't cry
I guess
yeah.
that could be too. Yeah.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
didn't cry until she was like, he thought she would give him consequences.
Could be,
Yeah. And here's my thing is like my sister getting married in a couple weeks, and I put
Don't
myself
sleep
in.
with his.
I'm not. It's not a risk.
Unless you're in a time loop at the wedding.
No. But I put myself in this position of like, maybe I didn't cause it or whatever, but if I knew. And I was like, yes, I would tell her because tell her before legal paperwork gets involved.
Yes.
Secondly, there's a strong chance he's going to do it again. And thirdly, when she eventually figures it out or finds him out or finds out that he did it with somebody else, in that argument, he's gonna bring it up. And then our relationship is forever torn because I didn't tell her. Then I've been hiding it from her the whole time. For me, it's gonna suck so bad to tell her.
Yeah.
It's gonna make that day so hard. But at the same time, it needs to happen.
Yeah.
That is the only option.
Because in 5 years, he's going to be like, oh, yeah, I got fat. Well, I fucked your sister on our wedding day.
Exactly. Yes. That is yes.
Yeah.
And so for me, her journey is so much about, I know how hard things will be. I know how hard it is to put my life back together. I know that I'm going to have to eat some crow and take some licks to repair relationships, but I need to go back to do it. So for me, I really wish she would have told the sister, because for me, that's a key one that she should have tried to repair.
And it's weird to me that she doesn't, because she does on one of the nights that gets reset.
Yes.
So, like, why not tell her at the end? Whatever, man. Like, it's so weird.
I think she's like, I don't want to ruin the wedding, but I'm like, you're ruining the marriage instead.
Right. Like, you're saving one day of happiness, because that would be a happy day for her.
Right.
But you're making it a time bomb, and that's worse.
Yes. In Fleabag, and I know I keep comparing it to this, that is so much of her arc of, I'm the problem. I need to repair these relationships. I need to be honest about the things that have happened. And she goes through a similar situation with her sister.
Yeah.
And that brutal honesty is difficult to overcome, and the sister doesn't want to hear it. But when everything comes out, who is she standing next to? Her sister.
Yeah.
Because she knows she was honest with her. That's the key. So it did bug me that she didn't do that. But I'm with you, Mikey. I think the writing at that end part kind of weakens it a bit. Anyway, back to the movie. So they kind of, as a two of them, kind of flirt around the wedding and end up under the window where Misty is sleeping with the officiant. Or rather, the officiant's going down on Misty in her hotel room.
Yeah. Well, in their hotel room, but yeah.
In their hotel room, yeah. And they're kind of admitting, she's like, I fuck around and I drink too much, and they tell me all the time, and it's kind of suffocating, and, you know, and it's kind of this self-destructive pattern that she is in, where it's kind of like, instead of really kind of dealing with some of her emotions, she's going to just continue to make bad decisions because she believes that that's who she is.
Yeah.
Instead of breaking the cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they go out into the desert to bone. Now, here's part of where my headcanon of this is him trying to trick her into following him. She has a hotel room. So does he. His is occupado, obviously.
Well, yeah, because his girlfriend's currently using it with the officiant.
Right.
Yeah.
But they've already banged in that hotel room 100 times.
But she doesn't know that. And so there's a part
But
of me
he's
that's like,
bored of the hotel.
I don't care. Stay away from the cave. Like, you could bang in the entire desert that's not the cave.
That's true too, Paige, but like, I would rather have sex like in a bed or on a couch or on the fucking floor
Same.
of a hotel than on a
Yes.
rock in the desert.
Oh my God. Y'all are two like prudes, okay?
Oh, no,
We're
Mikey,
prudes?
let me be clear. If I find myself in the desert and Natalie wants to have sex with me, that's where we're having sex. But like,
Sure.
if I had a choice, it would be in an air-conditioned room. And that is
Yes.
for everyone's smell safety.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
what
yeah.
if you're in a time loop and that gets a little old? What if you want to see the stars now?
Then there's a ton of places to see the stars that aren't close to the cave.
But like, what if he's played a game? I'm not saying I would. I'm just saying, thought crossed my mind. Like, he wants to fuck on every square inch of that whole place in the time loop.
I feel like Mikey's thought this out specifically.
I mean, maybe, but the place that I would try to avoid would be the place that could catch another person into the time loop.
That's why you save it for last.
I mean, I guess, but like,
My mind would be like, I've got to fuck in the time loop. Maybe that'll break the
That's
cycle.
exactly what I thought you were thinking. Yeah.
okay, okay. I mean, I'm going to argue that probably doesn't work, and he could have tried that with Roy earlier, but...
You've got a nut in that 3.2 seconds in between when you enter the
Right,
time loop
right,
and you
right.
get thrown back into the loop, right?
It's not a C4 explosion. It's just like a C maybe 4.5 inches explosion. Yeah.
But the C4's got girth, and that's what's important. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, they're boning in the desert. They're about to bone, and he gets shot with an arrow. And JK
Love it so much.
So good.
Because Sarah's like, what the fuck?
What the fuck?
And you
what
just,
the fuck is that?
And Andy Samberg goes, Roy, I knew I smelled you. Like,
You son of a bitch. Yeah.
so it goes from like they're about to have sex to a insane, like hunting the most deadliest game type movie. And I was here for it.
Which I do love. Like
So
that
good.
whole dynamic,
Yeah.
so fucking funny. I wish there was honestly a little bit more of it in the movie.
Oh, yeah. I could take
Yeah.
more of Roy for sure. I just liked his character, like wise old man. Like when Andy Samberg says, I like your hat. And he goes, of course you do. I immediately loved Roy. I was like, I'm here for this. And I just watched Whiplash for the first time. And I
Oh, man, that's
love
such
yeah.
a good movie.
J.K. Simmons.
Yeah.
I wish, and I realize that no one in that movie can play drums, and that to me was a problem. But the movie, like the emotional weight of that movie is so good. And J.K. Simmons' character is so nuanced and like, I mean, it really is. What if Buddy Rich was your drum instructor? Because Buddy Rich was a notorious asshole. But dude, the way he like fucks him at the end and then he comes back out and just like wins over J.K. Simmons' character, I was like, oh, I love this movie. It was so good.
J.K. Simmons. It's when you look at, a bunch of things in your life that have gone one way or another, you kind of have to look at yourself as a piece of that system. And J.K. Simmons is part of the system of only good movies.
Yes.
Except for Terminator Genesis, which is what gave me the thought for my Terminator sequel the other day, which I like, but no one else does. And you know what? Everyone else is right. I'm wrong on that. It's fine.
I'm just saying J.K. Simmons is the best part of that first Spider-Man trilogy as
Yes.
Jonah Jameson.
Jonah Jameson,
And I will
yeah.
die on that hill.
No, you don't have to. That is an agreed upon hill.
So
He's also
good.
one of the best parts of the movie Juno.
Yeah.
I love him in Juno.
So good.
Anyway, so he shoots Andy Samberg again, and then he runs off into the cave because he knows that once he enters that cave, he's going to wake up in Irvine, which, by the way, Irvine is like a 2 to 3 hour drive from where the wedding is. So that means whenever he decides he's going to kill Andy Samberg, he like gets up and is like, let's go.
Yeah, he spends the whole day hanging out with his family, watching his son fertilize the shit or whatever. He has
So
dinner
funny.
with his family, and then he kisses his wife goodbye, and he's like, listen, I got to run a few errands. And then he loads up his bow and arrow, and he drives
Yes.
to Palm Springs.
Yep.
So good.
So good. So he goes into the cave. Andy Samberg is crawling toward the cave, which, by the way, he didn't have to crawl toward the cave. If he dies, the day restarts, or if he falls asleep, the day restarts. So he didn't have to go near it.
I do think
Well,
that he
he's in
wanted to
pain.
get in there because he was in pain, and J.K. Simmons wasn't going to kill him. He just wanted to hurt him,
Yeah, for sure.
which I
for
thought
sure.
was super evil, but great.
Yeah, it is. And he's only wounded him. He's not
Yeah.
like
I think
mortally.
intentionally.
Yeah. But also, I feel like you could go to sleep. Like, there are other options. If you're like, she's definitely going to try and follow me into this cave, I got to make sure that doesn't happen, I would just be like, I'm going to stay outside the cave. But instead, he crawls in and is like, don't follow me, and then keeps crawling, clearly wounded. Anyone with a soul would follow you.
Yeah. Like, are you okay?
Yeah, and do I need to call an ambulance? Anybody, this is all feeding my headcanon.
Now, the cave was glowing orange and humming.
Yeah.
I may not have gone in. I'm just saying, like, it was like a weird looking cave.
Would you just let someone die
Yes.
in the desert?
Abso-fucking-lutely. If you want me to walk into a golden orb that is humming, you're insane. I'm not following you.
You don't know that the cave is magic. You don't know that he's going to disappear.
Wait, Paige, are you saying you're not going to be friends with me if I already let someone die in the desert?
Yeah, that's going to be a bit of a deal breaker. Unless they were a Nazi.
I think you're in the clear, Mikey.
Okay, all right. But I'm just saying, like, her response is a natural response. I feel like it's an anticipatable response. And I don't think they should have been boning so close to the cave. So all of this to me is like, how accidental was this?
I mean, I do think it was an accident because no one's around and Andy Samberg's like, don't follow me. And I would not go into a glowing gold cave that had an orb in it that I saw someone walk into. I'd be like, no, I'm out.
Well, he doesn't walk. He's crawling and injured.
Well, whatever. I'm not going to crawl into a gold bubble or walk into a gold bubble. Like, I'm just not going to do it. That would scare the shit out of me.
I mean, you wouldn't at least even call an ambulance and then those people would end up in the cave?
I would 100% call the cops.
100%,
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
So here's what I'm saying. If you're Andy Samberg, if you crawl towards that cave, any way you slice it, any action she takes other than leaving you to die, which is unlikely, is going to result in someone ending up in that loop with you.
Probably. And Paige, I think you're right about this. He really should have killed her before he went into the cave. You're right. He should have made sure that she was dead and then he crawled into the cave.
This sounds terrible. I would accept that.
I know, because moralistically, that actually is a little bit better. Yeah.
That is better to me. Because he knows that she'll reset the next day and she won't get caught in the loop.
That's so dumb, but it's so true. I hate that, but it's true.
For all of his talk about not wanting Roy to end up in the loop, for all of his, I would never do that to someone again. He does nothing to prevent it from happening.
So dumb. I love it.
Yeah. Anyway, so she crawls after him. We cut to the next day and she comes after him in the pool and is throwing beers at him because she's like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
So we cut to her day. She wakes up. It's the wedding day again. And she's like, wait, what day is it? Like,
what year? Sorry.
What day is it? What year?
Anytime someone says what day is it, I can't help but hear you, specifically you yelling what year.
It's not me. It's Kyle Reese.
I know, but I've heard you yell it way more than I've heard Kyle Reese yell it.
I know. It plays in my brain anytime someone, what day is it? What year? Every time.
It lives rent-free in my brain. I'll be at work and they're like, what day was that? What year?
What year?
Stop it.
Stop throwing duffel bags full of explosives at people.
This is the quarterly reports where we talk about how much revenue we generated. And I'm over here like, anything between operating cost and gross revenue is wage theft. And it's about time you guys realize that.
Anyway, so she wakes up. She's disoriented. She realizes it's the wedding day all over again. She doesn't understand why. So she goes after him in the pool. The bride catches up to her and is like, what is happening? She slips, cracks her front teeth out, and now it's this whole, they're trying to find a dentist that glues teeth. It's a nightmare. She barfs into a trash can. So she goes and finds him out in the desert because she's trying to find the cave, trying to find where they were. And he explains, he's like, it's one of those time loops you might have heard about. She's like, might have heard about? What are you talking about?
I do guess in this universe, Groundhog Day doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Because if Groundhog Day exists, if we all got stuck in a time loop, we would immediately be like, oh shit, guys, this is a Groundhog Day.
It might take me a day or two of reliving the same day to be like, did I dream this?
We would use that vernacular with each other because we all know Groundhog Day exists. So I have to assume that this is not in a universe with Bill Murray Groundhog Day.
It's a Groundhog Day. It's a 12 days of Christmas.
12 dates of Christmas.
12 dates of Christmas.
Please.
My favorite
How dare
time
you.
loop Christmas movie so far.
So far until I write the better one.
Until we come out with
A violent Christmas
time loop movie. That's right.
Yeah. So he basically tells her you have to wait for the earthquake until the cave opens. So they do.
I love how he gets up on that rock.
Oh,
and then it goes, I am the Antichrist. And then the earthquake happens. It's so fucking funny.
Because he knows exactly when it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But he tells her, hey, you're not going to find anything in there. It just resets. And she basically is like, will this day end if I go in there? And he's like, well, yeah, but you'll wake up in it tomorrow. She's like, fine, I don't care. I just need to, I need this day to end.
Yeah.
Which, everybody's had those days where you're like, I just need it to not be today anymore. Today has gone so sideways.
Yeah.
I also think he's explaining the rules or whatever, but you have to experience that for yourself. That's hard to just take at face value.
Yeah, I also interpret it as her being like, I got it. I understand the basics of the loop. I cracked my sister's teeth out this morning on the day of her wedding. I need to not today needs to stop. I need the reset.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
So we cut to the next morning. She wakes up and she immediately gets in her car and drives away. She drives all the way back to Texas, which, by the way, is like almost 20 hours.
Yeah, I'm Google mapped it because she said it's from Palm Springs to Austin. It was like 19 hours and 30 minutes or some shit. Like it was an insane amount of time. And we actually do see the sun set and the sun come back up. Because she hasn't gone to sleep and she's like fighting it. So she actually does get a little bit into the next day, but the second she falls asleep, it goes back.
Well, I love Andy Samberg's response to this night where he's like, well, I did a bunch of crystal and ended up in Papua New Guinea.
I love that. I love that. But it also lays out the rules for us where it's not the 24 hours in the day.
Right.
It is your waking time. So like, if you found a way to never sleep, you would technically get out of the loop, although that would kill you, and then you would end up back in the loop. So like, much like the loops in The Endless. So she drives all night to Texas, finally gets home, and then falls asleep and wakes up the next morning in the loop again.
Yeah.
And she, this time, goes to his room with Misty. And Misty does that, are you cheating on me? And he goes, no, you're cheating on me, you goof. And they leave.
I love those interactions. And when her and him are saying the same thing over and over and over, like that shit was so funny to me. But the way he delivers the line, no, you're cheating on me, you goof.
You goof.
It's so funny. It's so good.
So she gets him in the car, and this is where he's explaining more of the rules. This is where he says he took a bunch of meth and drove all the way to South America.
Yeah.
But he did say, this is where he gives her the pain is really real, and dying slowly in the ICU is terrible because it takes a while. And he's like, so we can skip this whole trying to kill yourself part because it doesn't work. It just resets. But so she basically drives the car into an oncoming truck, and he lays his head on the dashboard so it'll kill him faster.
Yeah.
And just says, see you tomorrow. So we cut to the next day at the bar. There's a local bar. And he basically is like, as I was saying, find peace with it. And I'm really conflicted where I don't think apathy and peace are the same. Like, I don't think he truly has peace. I think it's what he's calling peace.
Yes,
I definitely think he's apathetic and he's not at peace with it.
Yeah.
But I also think he probably killed himself
many times.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think he was very upset for a long time. So apathy is like to him peace.
Yeah.
But to everybody else, like he's lost all perspective, basically.
Yeah, 100%. So in the bar, this is where we meet Darla, which I kind of love, that he's like met everyone in the bar. He's met everyone in town, which I kind of love. Like not just the wedding, but outside town. And she's asking about Roy. He basically tells her what happened to Roy, and we get a flashback of he and Roy partying that one night and I don't know if it's coke. I assume.
Well, Roy starts and says he has coke with him.
He says party favors. He says he doesn't specify coke, and then it's colored, like it's multicolored. You could color coke, I guess.
That's a little methy.
It could be. It doesn't really matter. The story doesn't make it matter. They refer to it later as a designer drug, which would maybe imply like a Molly or something, but you don't usually snort that. So like, I don't know. Call it coke. Fun colored coke.
Well, they stole coke from the cowboy, but it looks like they did more drugs throughout the night.
They stole drugs from the officiant, but it's not specifically coke. Although the bag that he steals from the officiant looks white. But later when they do it, it's multicolored. So who the fuck knows? Who knows? And it's also colored when the groom does it later. It doesn't matter. It's a drug.
Yeah.
Insert drug here.
They're just having a good night.
They're having a good time.
They go out and party in the desert. And Roy says, this is the greatest night. I wish I could live this day over and over again forever.
Dangerous words.
Yeah. And he's like, perfect. Come into this cave with me. Doesn't give him any explanation. Doesn't tell him the rules. Doesn't give him a chance to actually make that decision in a format that's not A, under the influence, and B, informed, and essentially passengers Roy.
He does. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, he didn't take it well. He wakes up in Irvine and only comes around every few days or weeks whenever he feels like killing me, which is pretty funny.
It's so great.
But then we get a little bit of a montage of him being tortured by Roy in any number. Like he's running through the desert naked. He's burning alive.
Yeah.
Like just all kinds of stuff. Then she asks like, okay, did you hook up with other people here? And he's like, yeah, but it depends. Like, it's a lot of work depending on who you hook up with. So I kind of put in as little effort as possible. And this is where she says, have we hooked up? And he says, no.
Yeah.
And he said, and she's like, well, okay, then who else? And then he goes through the list, and it's Daisy, the bartender, who they hook up in her car, and she hit a guy with that car and he never walked again, which she's saying as she's giving him a hand job, which is wild.
Paige, he comes as she says he never walked again. I lost my shit because he was like looking at her like she was like kind of crazy when she was like, I hit a guy in this car.
Yeah. I don't think he ever walked again.
Ah! Like it's so funny.
That's so funny.
But honestly, super hot.
Yeah. Then he says Darla, and she's like, "How? I bet that was amazing." He's like, "You would be correct."
Yeah, old chicks, no tricks, man. Like Darla would be good.
Yeah, Darla was the head of the wolf pack in True Blood for a while, and I bet she knows some shit.
She's also one of those ladies where you're like, man, she is in everything.
Anytime they're like, we need an old lady biker.
Yeah.
It's that actress.
I just looked her up. Her name is Dale Dickey.
Okay.
And she has done 131 things.
Of course she has.
Under her acting credits. Yeah.
I'm sure she has. Yeah.
Oh, honestly, she's in the new A League of Their Own TV series that I've been wanting to check out.
Oh, I bet that's amazing.
I bet it is.
She asks about Tala, her sister, and he's like, I've tried. And this is where we see the first dance, big swing thing. Then we find out he slept with the best friend, Jerry. And he's like, it was good to try once. And then he says, your dad. And we do get a play out with him and Peter Gallagher.
Funny.
But then he says, I'm kidding.
Dude, that Peter Gallagher play out, though, is so good because Peter Gallagher is playing it so earnest. And, like, it's not a comedy. Like, he is playing it like he is a main character and Andy Samberg is a main character. And this is their, like, romantic comedy hookup scene.
Yep.
He is, like, in it. I loved it so much.
It's great.
He should win an Oscar for this, is all I'm saying.
Then she goes into, well, I'm not going to sleep with you because I'm still kind of getting my feet and figuring shit out.
Yeah, fair.
And she then says again to him, we've never had sex. And he says, I don't think so. So he lies to her twice. Boom.
Yeah.
And then he says, do you want to go to the wedding? And she's just like, no, like, why? Like, that's it's horrible for me there. No one's going to care that I'm gone because it's going to reset.
Yeah.
Then she proposes that maybe it's like a karma selflessness thing.
Which is like the other time loop movies sort of suggest that, right?
Right. And he is like, well, but then what is selfless? Like, what exactly is it? So she is like, I know what I have to do. She goes to the wedding. She is about to announce what she knows about the groom, but instead she chickens out and hugs her sister and whispers it to her.
Yeah, I don't know if she chickens out so much so as that she wants her sister to hear it from her first.
Yeah. Sorry, chickens out is the wrong phrase. I meant that she chooses not to say it out to everybody and does it just to her sister.
Yeah.
And her sister is like, are you joking right now? And she leaves the wedding. The earthquake happens. And Randy, the groomsman, who we found out, the one who's trying to hit on her, as the earthquake happens, just goes, I should have never left the Great Lakes.
He loses his mind. Like, I had a whole headcanon about that guy, and it was very PTSD heavy. Because he reacts like someone who has had, like, trauma.
I mean, you guys have both lived through earthquakes, correct?
When I was in San Diego, I lived through a few. Although, honestly, Paige, when I was there, we didn't really have many big ones. Like, I think I slept through, out of the 4 I lived through, I slept through 3 of them.
Yeah, most people
I've never been in an earthquake, just like a bombing and some other stuff like that.
Yeah, flood, a bombing,
Tornado,
we've lived through,
flood.
tornadoes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing about earthquakes. If you grew up with them, you get pretty apathetic about them and you kind of forget that it's a very traumatizing experience for people who've never experienced a big one. Because I have watched multiple people experience their first big one.
Yeah, tell me about that.
Yeah, what is it like when someone experiences
tell
a big
me about
one?
a person's first experience with a big
because
one.
I've never seen someone experience a big
me
one.
Too. Yeah,
so it's interesting information for me to hear. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure neither of you have seen anyone experience a big one.
That's the joke. Yes, that's what we're saying.
But I remember watching Andrea Gazzetta.
How did she handle a big one?
I watched Andrea experience not a huge earthquake, but a large enough earthquake one
Okay.
time.
Earthquake. Yeah.
Earthquake, yeah.
I don't think I've ever met Earthquake. Does he live out there, or like what's his deal? Like,
No, but his most recent special was actually really good. Everyone should watch
I
it.
forgot Earthquake was a comic.
He does a whole section on why being anti-vax is stupid, and it's one of the best pro-vaccination like chunks of comedy that I have heard in a long time. So I recommend Earthquake special.
Love it.
So I watched her experience a larger earthquake than most people sleep through.
Right.
And just the terror.
Oh,
the
yeah.
like absolute terror of just like everything moves and you're not ready for it. And the initial moments of it are disorienting. So you sometimes feel like you're going to pass out.
Yeah.
Because you're just like, why is the floor like what? And the longer it goes, the scarier it gets. And
Yeah.
so if you grew up with it, a lot of times people are like, oh, it's just an earthquake. And you just kind of like brace yourself and you're like, it's over. We're good.
You just like ride it out.
Yeah, you just ride it out. But for the people who haven't, they're just like, what is happening? Like, it's the scariest shit for people.
I mean, Paige, I lived
yeah.
through 4. I was only awake for 1. If I experienced one that was like a bigger-ish one, I would lose
Yeah.
my mind still. Because the only one I was awake for, it was like really low on the Richter scale. I think it was like a 3.4.
Oh, that ain't shit.
Something that
Yeah.
was like nothing. I do remember looking at my window and seeing like the earth shake and that
Yeah.
being weird, but it wasn't like drastic, if that makes sense. Like it wasn't crazy bad, and it didn't last very long.
Yeah, they don't last very long for the most part.
Yeah. I mean, an average time is like 15 minutes,
Seconds,
right?
yeah.
No.
Oh,
Yeah,
wait,
it's
what?
literally like one of the longest ones I in recent memory was like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. What'd you guys do it twice?
Right.
Jesus.
Yeah. Tell me about them boulders.
I think you mispronounced shoulders, Mikey.
You did. As a kid, I watched The Street Roll one time.
Oh,
'cause
you
we had,
told me
like-
about that. I don't remember if it was on a podcast, but yeah, that would be terrifying.
Yeah, so like if it's your first time, and this is a substantial enough earthquake to crack the ground open,
Yeah.
so we're talking like a 6 or up. So like the fact that no one else at the wedding is just like, hide under the tables is kind of funny. But yeah, his reaction, very funny. And is your headcanon that he's so traumatized by the earthquake he drinks the rest of the night?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's the guy who gets shit-faced and
Yes.
is trying to pick up Sarah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a great headcanon
Yeah.
for him. I think that works. So, but I mean, personally, I'm terrified of tornadoes.
Yeah, I've lived through a bunch of those, but honestly, they are terrifying, man. They will pick
Right?
you up and murder you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tornadoes are scary.
Yeah.
And I live next to the air sirens or whatever. And it's like horror movie levels of scary.
Yeah. No, that, and maybe it's because I watched a lot of Twister as a kid, but like that terrifies me way more than earthquakes.
Yeah, like why does he get the house next to you but not your house?
Yeah. That's happened to Jake's family like 2 or 3 times. Anytime there's always news like, oh, we're going to have a huge earthquake. And I'm just like, bring it. But if you bring me a tornado, I'm fucking out. Like, no thanks.
Well, I promise when we come to visit, we will not bring you a tornado.
And don't bring a tornado unless it's a tornado potato, in which case I am on board.
I don't know what that is, but it sounds delicious.
Anyway, so she leaves the wedding and the wedding descends into chaos, essentially. And we cut to the next day. It didn't work. And she goes and finds him in his hotel room and just says, life is meaningless. Let's get out of here. And we cut to the safe house, which is a house that he's found in the local neighborhood where somebody's on vacation and they don't come back that day. So they can do whatever they want in the house because it resets the next day.
Yeah.
But this is where we get a montage of them basically doing everything they can, knowing that there's no consequences for the next day.
This part of it reminded me a lot of like Happy Death Day.
Yes.
Like like the part of Happy Death Day that I was like super here for, because it's very funny, very like leaning into the comedy of the whole thing.
I do love Happy Death Day.
It's so good. Yeah.
Happy Death Day is so fun.
Honestly, Happy Death Day to You is really fun too. And Mikey
I like them both.
has a huge crush on that girl.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so we get the montage of like her surfing on the car and falling off the back and dying, them like stealing a plane and crashing it, like dancing in the pools, and like they're like pool sharking Darla. They get matching outfits. She throws him like a birthday party. She gets Randy to meet her in the bathroom, air quotes, at the wedding. blindfolded, but they actually put him in the bathroom with Misty and the officiant.
They have him like walking in blindfolded, and then like everyone starts yelling, and they're outside
Yes.
that window where they were before watching his girlfriend cheat on him, and they're just like cracking up, having a great time. Like that's the kind of shit that I would like to do. Like send someone in like to zombie walk towards my ex-girlfriend
Right.
and Manny as they're fucking. That would be great.
Okay. But what if we put C4 on him to zombie walk inside and then we blew them all up?
I mean, it does reset the next day, so.
Yeah.
I mean, there were things about that when you said it felt very cathartic for me.
I will say that's a slight hole in the movie where I'm like, where did they get this many explosives? But then also they steal a plane, so like whatever. Because the next one is they put a bomb in the cake and like throw it up in the air and shoot at it.
Dude, when she
I'm
comes
a
out,
bomb guy.
like, okay, that part is hilarious. Andy Samberg runs out, like, digs into the cake. How they fucking get into the cake? Whatever. Gets the bomb out, puts it on a crossbow, and shoots it in the sky, and it explodes. The funnier bit is when Sarah walks out with a fucking hook hand, and she's talking in some, like, I don't know, French-ish accent.
I'm the sister of the bride from origins unknown, is what she says.
It's so good. My favorite part is when they go into the bar and they do like a whole dance sequence that leads to them just flicking everybody off.
Yep.
It's so hilarious. Like, I loved this part of the movie so much.
Yes. And they give each other stick and poke tattoos of penises, like you do.
Yeah.
And then they go camping out in the desert and take a bunch of drugs. And this is where they start to kind of like get to know each other better, where she talks about how she was married for a couple years, but she knew it wasn't going to work.
Been there.
And she moved for him and kind of like torpedoed the relationship. And she basically is like, I need that past information to not repeat it. And he, at this point, makes an argument of like, well, the past isn't that important. Like, because what is the past even? And there's a part of me that's like, A, I would have really benefited from knowing his past, but B, I think this is him hiding the fact that they have hooked up a bunch of times before. And that's why he's not talking about the past.
I mean, yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Anyway, he says that he can't remember, which, to be honest, if he's been in there 1,000 years, maybe he can't, you know?
Right. I think that's a more interesting read.
Yeah.
Of like, I don't know what life was like before this. Or like,
Yeah, I've been here
vague-
so long.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they end up seeing dinosaurs that night, which is kind of fun.
Well, because they're on shrooms.
No. The director came out and said that the dinosaurs were real. There's a bunch of like weird stuff that's real in the time loop, apparently.
Yeah, because there are dinosaurs. Well, but then there's dinosaurs at the end, which would suggest that they're still in the loop.
So wait, so dinosaurs wandered into the loop millions of years ago?
Oh, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
See, here's the thing. This movie does the best version of time travel where you don't explain it.
Right.
That's key to time travel and time loops.
We haven't gotten to it yet, but like apparently the old lady who like talks to them some,
Yes, she's there too.
she's in the loop. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then one theory says it's her as a old person who has come back and went back into the loop.
Oh,
shit.
maybe.
I love that. Like, her and Andy Samberg actually did figure it out. They got married. He died, and she just wanted to be with him again, so she goes back into the loop.
Maybe.
That was a
I don't
theory.
know.
There's like a lot of weird
I
theories.
hate that she ended up with him because she could do better, but I
Oh, yeah.
do love that reading of it where she just missed him and wanted to come back. That's cute.
Or she didn't want to die.
Fair.
Or nobody seems connected to that woman at the wedding. Who knows how long that, like, when that woman entered the loop, like, you know, I mean, I guess in theory, everyone has to enter the loop the same day, right?
Yes.
Oh, no, because Roy doesn't.
No, Roy does. Roy's at the wedding.
Oh, wait, on that day, but it's a looped day. Okay,
Yeah,
But there could be other loops in the loop. Like there's like all this theoretical quantum physics stuff in there.
Well, yeah, it could be an endless scenario where there's multiple loops within one loop.
Well, yeah, it's just like whatever day you walk into that orb, that's the day you reset.
Right, but that means if she's at that wedding, it is that same day.
Yeah. I don't know.
So that
I know
can't
that,
be her
I know
then.
that there's like different articles and theories. They have like evidence or like quote unquote evidence or whatever. But there's like interesting theories about people like one of the main theories is like that old lady is in the loop, and then one was like it's her. I was like, no, it's got to be just some random old lady where she's like, I've been to millions of weddings and this is the best speech I've ever heard.
But it's that wedding over and over and over again. I think she enters the loop that day because she has to.
The director, I think, came out and said the dinosaurs were real.
Well, whatever. Like, no, they're not. But like, that's fine, director, if you want to think your movie's more interesting than it really is. But there's no way those dinosaurs could be in that time loop that you set up in your movie.
Not in the same one, unless it's an adjacent loop.
Yeah, as the physics she studied are all like they did a lot of research. So I don't know because I don't care.
I'm going to say because they have to enter that day to be in that wedding loop, it's not her. It can't be her unless she time traveled back to that day and re-entered the loop.
Yeah.
Which I guess you could do from that cave. Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't think so. Or at least that's not what has been established in the film. But I do think that woman is in the loop because she does suggest it a couple times.
I don't think she's her. I do think she is a woman in the loop.
Yeah.
Yes.
And there's no way Andy Samberg and her have not hooked up.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I don't know. She seems to keep her distance and have her own stuff. I don't know. He doesn't mention it, but we also know that he doesn't mention it to other people. So
I bet he's had sex with everybody there.
yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Just to see if you could.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we cut to they're in their camping tent and they do have sex. And we cut to the next day. He wakes up and he's super happy because he's like, we're in a thing. She wakes up again, next to the groom, which we don't know yet, but like she knows essentially.
I think this is the day where you hear the shower or see like the bathroom and someone's in the shower. Like it alludes to the fact that she hooked up with someone that night. We don't know who it is yet.
We don't know who it was yet.
Yeah.
So she gets in the car with him that day and she, as happy as he is that they've had sex, it has made her realize some things where I think she realizes that however happy she is with Andy Samberg in this world where nothing changes and there aren't any consequences, every day she is still reminded of the thing that she did.
Yeah.
And that's a pain that she can't correct in this world with no consequences.
No, it would be terrible.
It'd be
Imagine
devastating.
waking up every day having just done the worst thing you've ever done.
Yeah.
It'd be terrible.
That's pretty much how I live my life.
Well, I've seemingly reached a new low.
So as they're driving, a police car pulls up behind them and she then starts to speed and she's like, well, I've never been arrested before. Let's fucking do it. And I think in part, some of this might be her trying to outdo what she did that morning to like, I don't know. I'm not sure. There's a lot of different reasons why she could be acting this way.
Yeah, because she could be like scared of the vulnerability because like now both of them have something real that they have done that moves over to the next day. They have made a connection. They have fermented that connection. And he is like googly-eyed with her like, hey, I feel different in this loop for the first time in a millennia.
Right. So they get pulled over by the cops, but it is Roy. And she ends up basically killing him with the cop car. Andy Samberg gets tased in the eye. And they do get arrested.
Yeah.
And he then says to her, look, pain is real and what we do to other people matters, which honestly makes her, I think that cuts her even deeper because it's like, what we do to other people matters because you have to live through it. You have to live through the pain.
Yeah.
Which, to be honest, for me is him being super hypocritical. But I think he's talking about Roy in that moment.
I think he's talking more like not just like lying about sleeping. I think he's like, if you cut someone up, like that shit fucks with you days later.
That's what I mean. That's why I think he's talking more about Roy in this moment of like, he's coming after me because I have to live with the fact that I changed his life. Like I passengered him. But I think he should also be thinking about lying to her. He's not, but whatever. But this is where she's like, she kind of lashes out at him. And it's because she hasn't told him about where she wakes up every morning. Yeah. And I think it's really getting to her.
She has her secrets too, although I don't think she has any requirement to tell her.
No.
Unlike he should have told her about the fact they had sex a bunch.
Yes, absolutely. But she's like, I probably would have stayed away from you if I knew this was kind of how it was going to play out, which I think is her self-destructive pattern, but whatever.
Yeah.
And then he kind of hurt and petulantly tells her that we fucked 1,000 times, we've hooked up a lot, and all I have to do is bail you out of that speech, and you're that easy. Like, it's brutal, because it's not only I lied to you multiple times, there is an imbalance in this relationship, And also, it's easy to do. And he says, I should have told you, but I didn't want to tell you, so I didn't.
Yeah.
Which is not a reason. Like, that's some bullshit.
I mean, it's his reason, but it is bullshit.
Yeah. And so this is where she says, I'm getting out of this day, and then steps into the road to be hit by a truck.
Yeah.
Then we cut to a half hour, give or take, of Andy Samberg's montages of living through days without her at the wedding, continuing his self-destructive pattern. He kind of looks for her a little bit, but then he gives up and he's just drinking through the days.
Yeah, he's just going back to what he was doing before. And we do get some snippets of her like learning a high-level string theory or whatever.
It's not for like another 15 minutes. It gives us just him for a long time, and then we find out what happened to her.
Yeah, it does pepper it in, but we do get a substantial time amount that's just Andy Samberg sort of going back.
Yeah, I think it's just showing that he goes right back to how he was before she was in the loop.
It literally sends him back, establishes him looking for her for a couple days, but then puts him back into his pattern, and we don't cut back to her until after he stabs the groom, which is like almost 20 minutes later. She doesn't even have cut-in scenes until then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and he doesn't see her until almost the very end of the movie. Like, they are separated for almost the remainder of the film.
Honestly, waking up and not finding her every morning would drive me crazy in a way.
Yeah, because you're like, she has to be here somewhere. Like, we're in the loop unless she found a way to get back.
Well, unless she wakes up like an hour before him or something.
Yeah, but even then, I guess, because it wakes you up whenever you wake up, right? Yeah. Anyway, we cut through him kind of exploring all the other parts of the wedding. We see the groom doing drugs the night before the wedding with all the groomsmen. And
in the groom's room.
In the groom's room.
Yeah.
And it's actually, no, I'm sorry, it's the night of the wedding.
Yes.
That's the wedding night. It's not the night before.
It can't be the night before because he wouldn't have slept with Sarah yet.
Well, and the officiants in his outfit, they're all in their tuxes, which means that not only was he enough of a kind of shitty human to cheat on her the night before her wedding, he's snorting rails during the reception. Like, she should have definitely told her sister this is going on.
Yeah.
Anyway, as he's watching the groom, he smells her hairspray on his pillow.
Yes.
And kind of puts two and two together. And then he tells the bride in one of the loops. And they just kick him out of the wedding. They don't care. Nobody is like, this is the one where he ends up stabbing the groom in the face with a fork, which is great.
So funny. Well, because the groom attacks him, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And everyone's like, I hate you, Misty's boyfriend, because they don't know his name.
So funny.
It's very funny. So we cut to the rest of the wedding, which we haven't really seen up until this point, where the stepmom and the dad sing a song, and that happened to be the song I walked down the aisle to at my wedding.
Really?
Yes. I'm not sure which version of it they're singing. I walked down to the Supremes version, which was a little peppier.
Well, you can't really tell because they're singing it, so you can't
badly.
Really... Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, it's not great. But he admits to Jerry, who's the one groomsman that he had sex with at one point. He's like, I miss Sarah. And he's like, I didn't know you knew her. And he's like, I love her. And he's like, that's interesting.
Well, he's like, aren't you Misty's boyfriend?
I feel like this is me. I'm like, why is this person confessing this to me?
This would happen to you, though.
Yeah, this would happen to you 100%. I also, at this point, I'm like, this is not love. Like, I think this movie is not 100% on what love is as much as infatuation.
I don't even think it's infatuation. I think he was in the loop so long that he lost his humanity, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess. Gives me even more reason why they shouldn't end up together.
Well, we don't know if we know they make it out together. We don't know if they end up together. I mean, I hope he continues to be like getting back to being a person. Because I feel like it's kind of like how like when you become rich or powerful, like there's no consequences. You think you can do everything.
Right.
And you're just not like a real person. Like I think he's that to the extreme. And he doesn't remember missing people. He doesn't remember caring about people. Like think about it. If you went like 1,000 years and you just like had no connection to another person.
Honestly, and this controversial statement, 1,000 years is too long to live.
Yeah. No, I think he's there too, where he's like, I wish I could die.
Yes. And if I got back to the regular timeline, I think that might be the first thing I would do. I'd be like, I've been here long enough.
I mean, that's an interesting I mean, yeah, kind of.
Because like think about, because imagine growing old, but also having the memories of 1,000 years in the middle of it and not even remembering your child, like, because you've been alive, that's so fucking long. This is actually much like the villains in Horizon Forbidden West.
I do think that one of the reasons he's so willing to like possibly die to get out of the loop is because he's sort of okay with dying after all of this, you know?
I would be too, and she is too. I would be.
I have a very dark read of this movie where like he has not had feelings until she comes into the loop, and even then it takes him losing her again to be like, oh, this is what it was like to be a person. Like I
guess, and I think that's an accurate reading, but I think the movie romanticizes that, and that's
it's a
my
comedy.
problem.
I mean, like that. If you concentrated on that, that's a dark ass movie.
Yes, yeah, and that's kind of where I'm at. Of like, I can't escape the darkness of this movie.
that's like we're like going over to like Blade Runner territory with that.
Blade Runner is also very dark. Yeah. Is he a replicant? Is he not?
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I think him being like, I miss her and love her, are like him like realizing he's having feelings. I have a really interesting read on it, and I think at the time I watched it, it was like during lockdown, so I was like, other people, yeah.
Well, and it sort of like came out at the perfect time because we were all like in lockdown and had been in lockdown for like a few months.
Well, and then I lived alone. You know, I lived alone in lockdown, and and just worked and stuff, and I was like, I do miss people.
Yeah.
And I do feel like every day's the same. I like overly empathize with like not living as a human.
I think those are real feelings, and I do think that's an accurate read of the film. I just hate that the film romanticizes it and is like, but clearly they're in love.
Well, but here's the thing. I'm here for like a really dark time loop movie. I want the full spectrum of time loop movies.
I think we came up with a really dark time loop movie that we should make.
Well, this is going to sound terrible. If what you're saying is accurate, if he has been in the time loop that long that he is no longer a human with feelings, then his natural arc, after realizing that he air quotes loves her, should be to try and sabotage her leaving to keep her there.
Yeah. Well, I think he gets close to that.
I think so too.
That's why
he's
he asked her like,
villain.
let's stay. No, I don't think it's a villain.
That's a villain arc.
But he doesn't actually
do that.
He
just asks her.
He does it, and it doesn't super make sense. That's the thing.
I think it does. I think he asks her because he stopped changing. He has just stopped.
Yeah.
And then she's kind of restarted him. And like, this is the first decision he's actually made, besides like connecting with her naturally.
Yeah.
Where he wants to progress.
Is it natural? He knew so much he had thousands of times to predispose how that relationship was going to go.
I meant him having I don't think he had feelings for her until she was real, quote unquote.
Until she was sentient in the time loop. Yes.
I get it, but also she's been real the whole time. Like that's the thing.
Well, I mean, in so much as that everyone's been real the whole time, and we've been talking about how he should just kill all of them one day. So like,
I would still eat them.
What? Why? Why would you jump to I would still eat them unless you're talking about Misty and you're the officiant? None of that makes sense to me.
That's what Mikey's basest thing is that it's, he has to try people meat.
Well, I mean, like, you could make a very dark time loop movie where you really lose humanity, like Lord of the Flies time loop movie.
Yeah.
Sure. I think some of that's in this movie.
Oh, some of it is in this movie, but he's talking about like some really dark, gross shit that we can't say into a microphone for public consumption.
100%.
Yeah.
I agree with you. But this movie is played as a romantic movie.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, because a lot of these concepts are really dark, so they really kind of play up the romance and the goofiness of it. But once you start to analyze it, you're like, this is very dark.
Yes. Yeah, I'm like, I have a problem with it being romantic because it is an ethical dilemma.
It certainly is that.
Yeah. So he goes to Roy's and basically spends a day with Roy in whatever Roy's day is when he's not trying to kill him.
Yeah.
And Roy has this thing of like, I've taken stock of my life, and overall, if I had to pick a day to live forever, this is a good day.
Yeah.
But I am sad that I don't get to have the growth of living out other days.
Yeah, like when he said, I'll never get to walk her down the aisle, like talking to one of his daughters.
Yeah.
Like that sort of broke my heart a little bit. And you do really feel for Roy. Like I understand sort of why he would go and murder Andy Samberg every now and then. But I mean, he does also sort of own up to how that's shitty. And he's like, listen, I didn't even consider what it was doing to you. And you don't have to worry about that anymore. I think it's best if we don't see each other anymore. And I do love that he's like, all right, you got to get the fuck out of here because you're freaking my wife out. And then it cuts to like the blinds and she's like looking behind the blinds. So funny.
I do like that his son is watering dog shit, which I find really funny. But this is one of those things where I'm like, I see this scene and I'm like, they gave Roy so much more tangible, interesting growth than they gave to Andy Samberg. Because this conversation and this day is great. And I think that Andy Samberg doesn't even really, his character, I should say, not the person, doesn't necessarily even grasp the weight of what Roy has told him.
Yeah.
And doesn't even really apply it. And it's kind of like, we get this really cool moment with Roy, and a moment that I think actually fits in this movie, but then it's kind of wasted on a character that doesn't understand or care.
Well,
which
yeah,
is
because
kind of a bummer.
That would be a more serious. It would not be a romantic comedy. I mean, because Groundhog's Day kind of treads that line as like a dark comedy more.
I mean, I feel like we could humanize him and give him more of a character arc, and it wouldn't ruin this movie. It would only improve it and make him maybe less of a villain. But I also think one way to solve all of this is everyone enters the time loop at once, and everyone has their own growth arc through it. Because then we're not dealing with him being inhuman.
Yeah.
Or everybody enters it together and they will all lose their humanity.
And it becomes just like a Hunger Games type scenario where everyone's just killing everyone.
Then they do find a way back and they show up and they're just like Mad Max Fury Road it out.
Yeah.
Well, like the protagonist is like, we've got to hold on to our humanity. We can't treat these people like a Paige. And then like the other people are like, let's do some fucked up shit. And then they start fighting every day and trying to get out as they have a conflict.
And then Mikey's like, let's eat Todd.
I mean, how would you solve a conflict like that where you can't physically kill people because people just respawn?
You would either have to kill them in the morning so you have the rest of the day to like relax, or you're killed by them and then you know that they torture everyone. It would be an interesting kind of thought experiment.
Yeah, I don't know.
Unless you can get rid of the loop.
Anyway, so as he's talking to Roy, he's like, who was the girl? And he's like, yeah, it's the girl. She followed me into the cave. And he's like, well, at least you have each other. This is terrible to go through alone. And then he has Roy kill him one last time, standing in the recycle bin.
Yeah.
Which is so funny.
It is great.
And it's to beat the traffic, which is real. That's real.
Well, I mean, he's just going to drive back and then go to sleep. Why not kill him and then he wakes up immediately? Yeah, absolutely.
So now it's only after he talks to Roy that we get to her waking up. So we have not seen her in the movie for like 20, 30 minutes. She comes back and she's like, she confronts the groom. So this is where we find out that she slept with the groom. And she's like, that was awful and we're shitty people. And then she leaves to basically learn quantum physics online. And we get multiple days of her at this diner learning quantum physics, just like trying to figure it out, watching YouTube videos, Zooming with professors, like all kinds of stuff. And then she tests it out by putting the goat in the cave.
Yeah.
And we only really get this like 5-minute montage of her learning quantum physics. So we got this whole journey of him not learning much and her learning quantum physics in 5 minutes and then waking him up and being like, hey, I figured it out.
Yeah.
Like she just pops back into his life.
Which I also think is kind of like, she should be like, I'm going to try to figure this out so we can get out. Like that would have been an easy conversation too.
She doesn't owe him shit.
No, I think it's fine what she does.
Yeah.
She could have left without telling him. I mean, whatever.
Honestly, I would have fully supported her leaving without telling him.
I like that she doesn't. I even like that she sends a letter to Roy or whatever.
Yeah.
Or a message. I don't quite know how that whole thing works, but.
Voicemail. He says voicemail.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I really like how she does care about everyone involved, you know? Even Roy, who she has no quote unquote relationship with, you know?
Right. Yeah. But I would say she has had growth into being a more caring person. Mm-hmm. And that is part of her. This is part of her arc. So she tells him that she has a way to get back and find out. And she basically explains it all and tells him that she tested it with the goat. And the goat is no longer in their timeline. The goat went back.
Which doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. You're right.
Yeah.
Because it would just be a regular goat.
Yeah, I think she just killed the goat. I think she says that to get him to go.
Well, I mean, we see her putting the goat into the time loop portal thing.
No. So I thought about this on the rewatch. What you would do is you would train that goat. You would have to send it through the loop.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So it's reliving the same day. Train it to do a task on command, like Pavlov's dog.
Yes.
And then blow the goat up, try to ring the bell, and then if it's not doing what you train it to, it's not the same goat. It's out of the loop.
Yes.
Right.
Well, and now that I'm thinking about the amount of times we see, because we see her take the goat into the cave a couple times. So I think maybe she does put the goat in the loop and then pull the goat back out of the loop.
That's what I think, yeah. So
I think that's what she does, yeah.
that's how it makes sense. You would have to put it in the loop, train it to do something, and then you have to lose that skill
Right.
when you try to take it out of the loop.
Or some sort of, this is going to sound terrible, brand it.
No, because every day it would lose the brand.
Not if it's the looped goat that you then take back. It's this.
No, because they
No, it would lose
the,
it.
they lose the tattoos, all the physical damage.
Oh, that's
gets
right.
undone.
No, you're right. You're
Yeah.
right. Anyway, so he basically is like, I kind of don't want to go. I want to stay with you. I love you. And she's like, I have to go back. And he says, but the world is hard. And in here we get to be together. Is that so bad? And I'm like, yes. It is stagnation. That is bad.
I think that'd be a good movie if they didn't have other objects. Like if they came in, if like
Together.
they fell in love in there, and he was like,
Yeah.
but we could live here in peace and not have to deal with anything.
Right.
And honestly, aspects of that would be enticing to me, but I still think you'd want out eventually.
I would want out. Yeah. But I also think if you want that to work in this story, you have to also get rid of her and the groomsmen, or her and the groom.
Yeah, you have to. You have to change. It would be. It's a totally different movie.
Yeah. It honestly, that movie is basically 50 First Dates.
Well, she never gets out of that loop.
Yeah, she never gets out of that loop. He has to tell her every day that he loves her.
well, but she has like a condition. Like there's nothing they could do to help. Like
Yeah.
guys. I mean, I've never even seen that movie. I just heard you guys yell at each other about it so much. I feel like I have.
The difference is, first thing every morning, she wakes up to him telling. Now, granted, could he manipulate that situation and tell her things that are not true? Yeah.
Oh, you mean like take her onto a boat so she can't go anywhere once after she sees that movie?
I see. You have seen the movie.
No, I've heard Mikey yell that at you like 9 times.
I can see that there are problems with that. 100%. It's not perfect. And it is, you do have to ask if someone can consent with an injury like that. But that's a different movie. So,
I'm laughing so hard.
I mean, I'm agreeing with you that it's bad.
No, I'm just laughing. I'm just laughing.
So she decides that she's going to go, whether he wants to go or not. Good for her.
Yeah.
I respect that choice 100%. And I think that if he had not met up with her, she would have gone.
She absolutely
100%.
I
I think
love
she
that
would.
scene where they like really do sort of honestly communicate. And she's like, listen, I'm going. It'd be great if you came with me. And he's like, listen, I love you, which I think he drops there sort of emotionally manipulatively. And
Yeah, because he's a manipulative guy.
yeah. Granted, I'm agreeing.
Yeah.
But like he then says, I love you and I'm asking you to stay. Like they are very honest about what they want, but like they are diametrically opposed. She's going to go. He's going to stay.
He doesn't take much convincing.
Yeah, because he has no direction in life. He doesn't make any definitive choices. He just lazy rivers his way through life.
Another good time loop movie is like, what if he like goes insane?
I mean, he would go insane.
I would argue maybe he has.
Yeah, that's what that would be funny.
Dude, during the montage when they're like falling in love, quote unquote, and they go into the bar and she's throwing the birthday party that says happy millionth birthday dipshit. Like I love that part. But if I had been in there a million years, I would be insane. Like couldn't die. Couldn't do anything that had any kind of repercussions. Couldn't talk to anybody about it. I would be totally insane.
Oh, yeah. Well, you could talk to people about it, but no one would remember the next day.
Well,
so,
and no one would believe you. You could have no real connection.
Yes.
I think it would take something like that for me to be like, yes, I will try to eat a person.
Yeah.
So pretty much it would take a million years of that for me to be like Mikey.
Oh, I don't think it would take a million years. I think it would take about 100 days.
I mean, they have food in the time loop. Like, I would not be.
Are we all in it together? Or are we separate?
Oh, in my mind, it was just me because there was no one else to
I
connect
think
with
just
about
you
it.
might take a couple a year. I don't think it's going to take a million. It might
Mikey,
take a
if it
couple.
was all three, day 4 of the time loop, you would take us somewhere and be like, all right, listen, you guys don't have to do it with me, but I'm going to eat somebody.
Fade in, I would be like, guys, we're in a time loop. We talked about this. And then I would just pull out a human leg.
Don't judge me. This is Eric.
I brought it through with me.
We're going to grill. I cut that guy's leg off. I got us out here to a grill. This is what we're going to do on our 100th day.
We just see a guy crawling far in the distance like, come back with my leg.
The comedy in time loops is literally endless, just like the loops.
Yes.
Anyway, so she goes through the wedding one last time, and this time she does make the speech, and she, instead of telling her sister that he cheats on her, she basically gives part of her speech to the groom and is basically like, don't fuck it up. And he's like, I won't. And she's like, good. But to me, that's not good enough.
No, it's not.
Like,
and by the time they're already married, it's too late. I mean, you should tell him or tell her anyway,
Yeah.
but like she should have told her before the ceremony. But
100%.
oh, yeah. Yeah. The old lady talks to her about losing her mother, which again,
But then the old lady knows she's not going to see her anymore or whatever. Like,
yes.
wait, the old lady introduces herself as like her grandmother, right? Like Nana?
No, we don't know who the old lady is. She never introduces herself. She just walks up to people and is like, that was a great wedding speech, and I've been to a million weddings. Like, we don't know who she is, but it is definitely suggested that she is a time traveler of some sort.
Her name is Nana and then their last name. So like she was Nana on some level. I can't say their last name. It's like Schleffen.
Yeah, I don't know. How did she get in the loop? I don't know.
No idea. I mean, she also could just be one of their grandmas.
Yeah. So she leaves the wedding early and she's going to prep to go into the cave. Meanwhile, he's in the bar and he's just drinking.
He's actually not drinking, but he's talking like about the time loop just openly. And then Darla is like, what has he been drinking? And the bartender's like, that's his first drink. And it reveals him at the bar and the
With a
drink
full
is
drink.
still full. Yeah. So he hasn't had anything yet. He eventually does take a shot. And I think this is when he's like deciding, I'm going to go find her. And he throws it on the ground. And then he starts yelling at the barkeep. And the barkeep throws him out. And he like steals the barkeep's keys. And then drives away in his truck to go to Sarah.
Right. So he drives all the way out, but he gets a flat tire. So he runs out into the desert, runs into the guy that owns the goat and says, I'm your son. I'm your long lost son. And he's like, I've always had a feeling, because they're going to restart the next day.
I
so
fucking love that part too, because
So
it's
funny.
like so funny. But Paige, it is very manipulative.
Yeah, because he is, but it is a funny one.
It's funny.
So he gets to the cave. She's prepped to go in, and he's like, I was scared, but I'm not anymore. And she's just like, I don't need another speech from you. You get like one sentence. And he does this whole sentence grammar thing.
I did think this was cute.
It's
yeah.
funny. Yeah.
It's all right. Yeah. But he basically says, I would rather die with you than live without you, which I think is more accurate than I love you, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Because I think to your point, they don't really love each other yet.
Yeah.
There's possibility of loving each other. I think that they are very infatuated with each other.
Sure.
And that can sometimes develop into a real romantic love, but I don't think they're quite there yet.
All this movie needed was another scene of them camping, of like them talking for days and days, just like fading into that, going over and over again, of like, oh, okay, they're really close now, or something like that.
See, to me, that doesn't even solve it, because I think the loop itself invalidates a lot of truly love.
Well, yeah, because they're truly the last people on Earth, in their Earth.
In their Earth, and they have no consequences. There's no societal influence. There's nothing. Like, even if they like each other a lot, when they get to the real world, that relationship is completely untested. It might as well be their first date.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like a first date with someone you've known for a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with that.
Or an ex from 5 years ago.
No, just politely decline that drink, Mikey.
I'm telling you, when people tell you who they are, believe them. Yeah. So they decide to go into the cave and they say, let's see what happens if we blow up and die. And so they walk into the cave and he says, so was the whole goat disappearing thing real? And she says, too late, you're already in the cave.
Yeah.
So they blow up the C4. We cut to them in the pool. And she's like, so now what do we do? And he's like, well, we pick up my dog. And he's like, you have a dog? And he's like, yeah, Fred. He's with a neighbor. Shaggy dogs. And as they're talking, the neighbors who own that house come home. And they're like, I guess they come back November 10th. And we pull out and show that there are dinosaurs in the background. Now, I didn't see the post-credit scene. So Roy comes up to him at the wedding.
Roy comes up to him at the wedding and he's like, hey, shitbird, I got your girlfriend's message. Do you think it sounds crazy, but do you think it would really work? And Roy turns around. He's like, who are you? And then he smiles and he's like, I'll take a double.
Yep.
And that's the
movie.
So having seen the movie, having talked about the movie, what do you guys think about Palm Springs?
I think it's interesting because you can go down some very deep rabbit holes with this film.
Yeah.
It's a very good conversation starter.
I think it's a really good movie if you don't critically think about it.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean it's a romantic comedy?
Yeah. That is pretty common on this podcast specifically. Yeah.
Honestly, that's why I don't like a lot of them.
And I think you're right not to, Paige.
Yeah.
But I enjoy it. I'll watch it again. I watched it in 2020 when you told me to watch it, Mikey. I dug it. I hadn't watched it until we watched it for this, but I liked it again.
It's hit or miss for me. There are very funny elements of this movie. There's very inventive and interesting parts of this movie. I do really like her story and trajectory. I just don't like him. That's the one thing that holds me back. I may watch it again. I don't know. But like, he's the one thing that bugs me about it.
I think that's fair.
I like it. I think it's a interesting romantic comedy.
Yeah. So, Paige, you have some fun facts for us?
I do.
Well, here it is with your fun facts. Palm Springs, fun facts.
So Andy Samberg has actually admitted that there are multiple endings written and even shot.
Oh, cool.
Interesting.
Yes. And I don't necessarily have a ton of information about what is what, but they screened a bunch of different versions for family and friends to get opinions on it, and no one could agree. So, like...
Oh, interesting.
This is the one that most people agreed on, I guess, but I would assume if I was writing this, there's probably an ending where they don't end up together, where he doesn't come with her. There's probably an ending where they do end up together, but it doesn't work, and they still end up in the loop.
Yeah.
There is also probably an ending where it works, and we see more of them. Like they get to relive the wedding one more day, or something like that. Like I can see all of those kind of making sense as an ending. I won't give you the number because it'll invalidate our budget stuff later, but this does hold the record for the biggest sale of a film at Sundance. Which, here's the thing. It is an interesting movie. It's not one of those movies where I'm like, I can't believe people made this. You know, it's interesting. I just have moral problems with some of the things the characters do.
Yeah, that's fair.
One of the scientists that she contacts via Zoom is a man named Clifford Johnson. Clifford Johnson is an actual physicist who worked on the movie, helping them come up with the time loop story and the parameters of the loop. This also broke the record for the most viewed Hulu release in its first weekend on the streaming service. Now, granted, that was the first weekend we were all home, so you couldn't do anything else, so that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
The scene between Roy and Niles, so J.K. Simmons and Andy Samberg at the bar, is almost completely improvised. That's one of the only places in the movie that happens, but this is more a thing in Horror Virgin than this movie, but like, we talked about how improv,
good
when
improv
used
versus
sparingly,
bad.
good improv versus bad. This is good improv used sparingly, and it works really well.
Yeah.
So Andy Samberg has talked about his influences for this movie. Groundhog Day is a huge one, but also Edge of Tomorrow, which is a time loop movie I fucking love.
I love that. I love that one too.
I love Edge of Tomorrow.
I fucking love time loop
Edge
movies.
of Tomorrow is a fucking wild time loop movie, and it's sad and amazing. And so,
I've actually seen that one. I like it a lot too.
Yeah, Happy Death Day, to be honest.
Yeah.
I do think this is probably Sandberg's like most creative effort. Or
it's
like
very different from his other films, and not in a bad way. I mean, like, for as much issue as I take with his character and some of the things in this movie and some of the moral issues, from a story and an execution standpoint, I think this is his best film. That said, Hot Rod, love
still
it.
a good film. Yes.
Don't Stop Never Stopping, or Pop Star, I think is the name of that one.
Yeah.
Also hilarious. So like, it's a very different lane, but I think he actually does a good job. They knew that time loops would be familiar. That's why they didn't try to explain it or differentiate it. They just figured audiences would go along with it, which is true. That that's a very solid choice.
We did go along with it. Yeah.
Yeah. They initially shot the scene with him running naked through the desert with Andy Samberg's stunt double, and then Andy Samberg did it himself just in case it was too obviously the stunt double, but they decided that his butt was funnier. Throughout the movie, he's drinking Akupara beer. In Sanskrit, Akupara means unlimited and unbounded. And in Hinduism, it's the name of a tortoise described as one who is without death.
Okay.
If you look at the label, there's actually a graphic that explains the mythology of the world and the earthquake. So, just a little tiny Easter egg. Yeah. If you Google, they basically... There is some stuff online that explains some of the metaphysics behind the movie, and that it's basically a wormhole that they're kind of stuck in.
Okay.
So the temperature was in the mid-80s during the filming, which, by the way, the movie takes place in Palm Springs, but it was actually filmed largely in a place called Santa Clarita, which is north of Los Angeles, kind of into the mountains a little bit. But because it was so warm, they had a huge bug problem on set, and so most of the post-production budget was them removing bugs from scenes.
Ugh. I've had to do that for shoots, and it is like a huge pain in the ass.
Yeah. So Kristen Milotti, who plays Sarah in the movie, asked to keep the pirate hook.
That makes me like her as a person so
I
much
have
more
a
than I did.
huge crush on her.
I
as
know
well.
she's great. I like her a lot.
Mikey, I like her for you. I would love to hang out with the two of you, just like living your best day over and over and over.
Well, that isn't the only thing she asked for. She said, I want the pirate hook and my dignity, but no one walks away from an indie shoot with their dignity. Which is funny.
That is great. Yeah.
So, in one of the scenes where J.K. Simmons is torturing Andy Samberg, he is dressed as his character from Whiplash.
Oh my God.
This is the only Hulu film, or at least the first Hulu film, I should say, to have a commentary track.
Oh, it has a commentary track?
It has a commentary
Yeah, I'd love
track.
to watch
I
that.
think I'm going to have to go do that.
Yeah,
On Hulu?
Yes.
it's got to be, right? Because they own the rights to it.
Yeah, it's on Hulu. So Max Barbacow and Andy Ciara they're the screenwriters, first thought of this concept when they were students at AFI, and they imagined it as what they called a mumblecore version of Leaving Las Vegas.
Oh my God.
Oh.
Okay. I mean, I can see that.
Yep. So in discussing the movie, Kristen Milotti has said that she views the time loop as a nightmare, but that Andy Samberg would use the time to rewatch all of MASH and all of ALF. And so she thinks he'd be okay for a while. There's a huge amount of circles throughout the film to symbolize the loop. The Endless does this too.
Yeah.
But his boxers have polka dots on them. Her bra has polka dots. They use the water donuts in one scene, like floaties, I guess. The macrame hanging at the wedding reception is circular. All the way they shoot the glasses and some of the other stuff. There's a lot of circle symbolism in it. The screenwriter, Andy Ciara, his own wedding was in Palm Springs.
Oh.
And those are your fun facts.
Well, thank you for those fun facts, Paige. Let's talk some box office. So what do you think the production budget was for Palm Springs?
I don't know, probably 15 million?
Okay.
I'm actually going to go 25, in part because I know what this sold for in distribution initially, and then would then probably be sold again for streaming. So I'm going to guess 25.
So the production budget for this movie was $5 million.
Holy shit.
It looks great for
This
$5
looks
million.
amazing for $5 million.
But it's pretty much a one location movie. I could definitely see this getting done for $5 million. So Paige,
that means they made fucking bank on this movie.
they did all right. So Paige, what do you know about the initial sale of it?
Okay, so it was purchased at Sundance for over $17 million.
Yeah, it was actually purchased by Hulu for exclusive streaming rights at Sundance for $17.5 million. And the only reason I know that, because normally we can't find that information. I looked for it. But
It's because it set a record.
Yeah, it set a record, and it beat a previous record by 69 cents.
Nice.
Which
yes.
has to have been like
Nice.
the Lonely Island guys who were either starring in this movie or producers on this movie. It has to have been them like, all right, we've got to make it like silly. Let's do 69 cents more than the highest. And the previous highest was The Birth of a Nation that sold in 2016. And that was previously the biggest sale ever until this.
And that did not do well after, which like that was a gamble that did not pay off. This paid off because it is one of the most streamed films in Hulu's all time. It's like number 26 in all time, which streaming is still very young. And there are definitely things that have been streamed more, but particularly this movie that was almost exclusively streaming and then had a small release in drive-ins to crack the top 20 on a $5 million budget.
That's pretty
to
good.
sell for them. Like, that is huge.
I do feel like had this released in theaters, it would have done well.
It would have done
too.
great.
Yeah.
This would have definitely had a good theater release, I think.
It did get an international run and made just over $1 million internationally, but the majority of that was in Poland. So like it didn't get like a a huge international release. You know, it like.
I'm always curious why certain countries like certain movies.
Well, I honestly think the countries that it did get a theatrical release in were, I think, places that Hulu may not be available, like Poland, Czech Republic,
that makes sense.
Italy, South Korea, Slovakia, Lithuania, and Turkey. Those are the places that got it in theaters.
Interesting.
So, I mean, it didn't make a whole lot, but it made an extra $1 million. So it made just over $18.5 million on a $5 million budget. So it made money.
Yeah, and that's not, we don't know the ad revenue that it made after Hulu bought it. Like, we know what Hulu paid for it. We don't know what Hulu made on it.
Oh, but they definitely made money on it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So do you guys think they're still together?
God, I hope not.
I hope they both refound their humanity and maybe started fresh. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't.
I'm okay with that, I guess. If that was one of the endings where they're like, let's start,
Yeah, I mean, I'd be
This
okay
is
with
day
that
one.
too.
Yeah.
But I just tend to think they don't
I don't
end up
think so.
together just because I don't think Andy Samberg has changed that much to where
Yeah.
he could make a relationship work. I do feel like she is on a firm path of growth, even though she's just started down it. Like, I do
Yeah.
firmly feel like her first phone call after getting out of the time loop is going to be
her
to a
sister.
therapist.
Or a therapist, yeah.
Or sister. Yeah, could be.
It would be interesting to watch him readjust to like the world. Like, think about living for 1,000 years without fear of death.
Yeah. He's going to walk into traffic the first day on
Yeah, right.
accident.
Yeah. He would die faster than the main character from Iron Eagle in Iron Eagle 2.
Yes. I think for her, after this movie, she starts her Fleabag season 2, which is like her tour of repairing the relationships around her and then also finding a hot priest. And I want that for her.
And then trying to save that hot priest from a renegade fox who was hunting him.
I mean, the fox is a metaphor. We can't get into it right now,
Dude,
but like,
the fox
I could
bit
talk
is
about
the
Fleabag
best.
forever.
And I wish you would, because I fucking love Fleabag. I want Phoebe Waller-Bridge to do 1,000 seasons of Fleabag.
But at the same time, no, because it's perfect. Like, does that make sense?
I just refuse to believe that season 3, if we ever got one, wouldn't also be awesome.
Well, she has said that she thinks the arc that she wanted to portray with that character is over.
Oh, yeah, I don't think she'll go back to it.
I agree,
Yeah.
and I like where it ends up. But yes, I could talk about the symbolism of Fleabag forever and the like camera fourth wall and what does it mean that he can also see it and like whatever, but we don't have all day.
Yeah. Yeah, Phoebe Waller-Bridge is like one of my favorite like creators right now because she is so good at like acting and writing and just every fucking thing. She's
Also
amazing.
Crashing also hilarious.
Well, yeah, but that's her show.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean. Like, yes, if you need more Fleabag and don't have any, consider Crashing on Netflix.
Yeah. But no, they're not together.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Well, how romantic did you think, on a scale of 1 to 10, did you think this movie was?
1.
I'm going to make Paige mad and say it's an 11 for me.
Good Lord.
No. I do agree that this is not super romantic, so I'm going to give it a 1.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it a 3.
Okay.
I think you just like the idea of a world with no consequences.
Don't we all?
I may romanticize that. So why is it not? That can be in the scale. It's fine.
I mean, that's fair. That's an act. That's
If the romantic scale is between Mikey and the time loop, it's a 10.
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%. I love time loops. I wish it was my pick because I have another time loop romantic comedy I will pick next.
Well, it's not your pick, but that does bring us to this week. I made you guys watch Palm Springs. Paige, it's your pick of the week. So what are you going to pick?
It's my pick of the week, and we're probably going to post this ahead of time on socials to give you time. But in having to purchase Showtime to watch Piranha 3D, all three of us found out that Better Off Dead is streaming on Showtime. This is not a drill.
Yeah, and we got a lot of people who were like, "Oh my God, it's on Showtime, and you guys
It's
have
on
Showtime."
Showtime.
So
I'm
like
ready.
we heard your feedback.
I don't remember it at all.
Oh, it is one of my favorite movies. It definitely has problems.
Oh, yeah.
But I love it. It is also one of my father's favorite movies. So it is a family favorite. And so this is your warning to either con Showtime out of 7 days of free content or go on Amazon and pay $4 for a DVD of Better Off Dead.
Yeah.
Yes.
So your homework for next week is to,
Yeah, drink eggnog made from lighter fluid, then watch Better Off Dead.
and if I know anything about your dad, it's that he has impeccable taste.
No, we're saving that for our Christmas violent time loop movie is eggnog made out of lighter fluid. That's for that movie.
but nobody knows it until someone lights a match.
I mean, that's in Better Off Dead. But also, this mountain is made of pure snow.
I'm so excited.
It's going to be great. We're all going to ski the K-12.
Oh, but only with one ski. So, Mikey, do you have a review for us to read?
There's one from Mrs. Effin Jones. Oh, that's funny.
Oh, I don't think we've done that, and I love that name. Can we please do that one?
Yeah, I can't pull up the title because I'm on my iPhones. Nothing about this podcast tastes
human. It says nothing about this podcast tastes human. I just looked it up. It's right there. That's amazing. So what does Mrs. FM Jones say? Effin Jones.
Mrs. Effin Jones. She says, I'm going to assume some genders. I've been meaning to write a review for a while, but laughing like a psycho in my office at work while listening to the 365 days finally made me take a break. 5 stars across the board for this team. My husband and I both love this group, whether it's horror version or RTP, and talk about it often.
Oh, that's awesome.
Paige is absolutely amazing and hilarious with everything she touches.
Yeah.
Also, the will they, won't they bromance.
Sorry, I'm just reading along with it because you had me bring it up to look at the title. Yeah, but finish it because it's funny.
Also, the will they, won't they bromance between Mikey and Todd is wonderful. Keep up the amazingness. 5 stars. And the answer is they won't.
We'll see about that.
We'll see what happens when you get stuck in a time loop and start to experiment.
I mean, if we are in a time loop, it would probably happen.
Okay.
There you go, Todd.
Now I know what I have to do to make this work. I'm about to time loop your ass. Well, Mrs. Effin Jones, thank you so much for the awesome 5-star review. And if you want to have Mikey read your awesome 5-star review, leave us an awesome 5-star review. I don't know if you guys saw this, but we got a shitload of reviews on Horror Virgin.
We did.
I don't know
Somebody
what
told me
happened.
one that they left specifically.
Did we?
Oh, yeah.
We also got a ton of people join the Facebook group all of a sudden. Like, we went up like 100 people.
So, yeah, guys, if you like this power throuple that we have here on this podcast, make sure to check out our other podcast, The Horror Virgin. And that is the only other podcast that Mikey and I are on. But Paige gets around, and she is on 2 other podcasts, Black Card Rehab and Cult Podcast. So guys, definitely check out those because they're amazing. If you want to follow us on social, we are at Romancing the Pod Show
Yes.
on Instagram, and we are at something else on Twitter who I just have never taken the time to learn it.
It's just Romancing Pod Show because they have a character limit and it's show SHO like Showtime.
So guys, check that out as well. And if you want to follow us all individually, Paige is at Rampage Wesley everywhere, including TikTok, except for Twitter, where she is at Paige Wesley. Mikey is at MRandolph24, and I am at Todd J. Awesome everywhere. And guys, we got a P.O. box. So if you want to send us some love letters or whatever you might send to a P.O. box, it's actually not a P.O. box. It's like a regular street address. It's pretty awesome. It's 6688 Nolensville Road, number 108-34, Brentwood, Tennessee, 37027. So send us some stuff.
Yeah.
That's going to be it for us, you guys. I'm Paige.
I'm Mikey.
And I'm Todd?
And you complete us?
2-time loop pletion.
Oh, do you want to see my brontosaurus?
Wilma!
Bye! Most violent time loop Christmas movie nerds.
It's going to be a hell of an acronym for people to remember.
I love it.